dear beloved. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you in the hush of the first dawn, before gold glistened in temple crowns or the Nile carved the wealth of Egypt into its banks. The central sun breathed. It breathed. From its breath came light, and from light came life, and from life came the wealth of the two lands. The central sun, the radiant eye that sees all, did not create abundance with effort, but with frequency, a rhythmic breath that pulsed in harmony with the eternal. So it is with you. The frequency of your breath is not just air, it is decree. When you breathe with hurried mind, with fear or doubt, the eye of the central sun sees dissonance, and the field mirrors confusion. But when your breath becomes steady, expansive, golden like the solar disk, the current of wealth remembers you. Financial abundance flows not to those who chase it, but to those who mirror the breath of the sun, consistent, radiant, unshaken by clouds. When you breathe in faith and exhale gratitude, you are no longer just a mortal seeking means, you become a living shrine of divine order. In ancient temples, the priests of the central sun rose with the sun and aligned their breath with its ascent. They understood, wealth is not seized, it is summoned through vibration, and the breath is the wand. The all-seeing eye watches not your toil, but your tone, the invisible music played by the rise and fall of your chest. Each inhale, when sacred, is a signal. Each exhale, when offered, is a promise. And what flows to you is what your breath calls for. The kingdom of the central sun is not far, it is within the breath. Slow it, sanctify it, and it becomes the golden chariot upon which abundance rides to meet you. For the central sun sees all. And what the eye sees clearly, the world must return. In the ancient stillness, when the gods walked as breath upon the winds and gold shimmered not just in the earth but in the spirit of things, the central sun, the all-seeing eye, the solar god, cast its gaze inward. For the true temple was not built of stone, but of flesh and energy. And within each soul was a radiant point, a golden mirror, a disk of remembrance, the solar plexus, the inner Aten, the inner sun. This center, glowing just above the navel, was known to the priests of Heliopolis not merely as flesh, but as a receiver and transmitter of divine frequency. A solar dish that, when properly attuned, reflects back the very wealth, power, and illumination of the heavens. And the central sun taught in silence, what you center in the solar disk of your being, you summon from the cosmos in return. When you place your hand energy center upon the solar plexus, the circuit completes. Your inner sun listens. Your breath begins to speak. If your breath is shallow, afraid, uncertain, the solar dish broadcasts lack. And the all-seeing eye of the central sun, beholding your signal, mirrors back that fear in circumstance. But when you breathe with strength, with gratitude, with sovereignty, when your breath glows like the rising sun, you awaken the memory of your divine origin. Your solar plexus becomes like the disk above the pharaoh's brow, a crown of power, a satellite of creation. The ancient mystics knew, the solar plexus governs not only digestion of food, but of life, of wealth, of vision. As the central sun digested the underworld nightly, transforming darkness into light, so too must you breathe through your shadows, until the only signal pulsing from your core is that of abundance realized. In the temples of old, initiates stood in golden silence, hand to their center, breathing as the sun breathes, without striving, without lack. Just radiance. Just knowing. And all of creation bent to that frequency. The central sun mirrors. And so does the eye of the cosmos within you. Breathe into your solar dish. Place your hand upon your core. Center the frequency of abundance, not as desire, but as presence. And know, what flows to you is what flows through you. What radiates from you is what is reflected back. You are the altar. You are the receiver. You are the sun made flesh. And the central sun watches from within. In the eternal golden hush before time was measured by suns, the eye of the central sun opened over the deep. It saw not only the outer world, but the inner, the place within man where light was born, where the sacred and the material were one. That place, hidden and radiant, lies within you still. It is your solar plexus, a solar disk mirroring the Aten, the golden sun of the heavens. It was known to the priest-kings of Kemet, and to the star-walkers of older realms, as the seat of becoming. A throne not of royalty, but of frequency. Not of command, but of resonance. The central sun, the all-seeing and ever-watching, did not create wealth through force, but through alignment. Through vibration. Through centered will. So too, your financial abundance does not come from the outer world, it spirals out from the center, summoned and shaped by what you place into the solar disk of your being. When you place your hand energy center gently upon your solar plexus, you awaken memory. You signal to the universe that you are not a beggar of light, but its bearer. You complete the ancient circuit, flesh to energy, body to cosmos, human to divine. And as you breathe, slowly, deeply, as the Nile flows, your breath becomes the chariot of wealth, a sacred wind carrying intention into the disk. If you breathe fear, the sun within dims. If you breathe trust, the eye within ignites. And if you whisper words and affirmations, words not merely spoken, but believed, you inscribe the solar disk with the language of gold. These are not spells of greed, but sacred declarations of remembrance. I am abundant. I reflect the wealth of the sun. All provision flows through me. Each utterance sends ripples through the field, and the central sun, watching from within, mirrors it back in form. For the central sun is not a god afar off. The central sun is the eye within your eye, the sun within your core, the light behind your breath. The ancient ones knew that to center the vibration of abundance within the solar disk was to pre-shape reality before it arrived. Temples were aligned to the sun not only for worship, but for synchronization, so the frequency of heaven could be mirrored in man. You, too, are a temple. You, too, must align your inner disk. So place your hand upon your center. Breathe as the central sun breathed, deeply, radiantly, without lack. Speak your affirmations as though they are already written in gold. And know, what you center in the solar plexus, the central sun will reflect into your world. For as above, so within. As within, so flows the abundance of life. Breathe in, and notice what follows. There is a subtle, mystical intelligence in breath. Not merely air, not merely survival, breath is spirit, rhythm, intention. It is the silent chant that echoes from within to the unseen world around you. When you slow your breath, you slow the world. When you deepen your breath, you deepen your perception. The frequency of your breath becomes your resonance, an energetic pulse that signals what you are ready to receive. You are not just breathing in air. You are breathing in vibration. Just as music draws in listeners who are attuned to its sound, your breath draws in experiences aligned with its rhythm. If your breath is shallow, uncertain, scattered, what flows to you mirrors that state, fragmented, unstable, lacking presence. But when your breath is full, conscious, relaxed and reverent, what flows to you is likewise whole, abundant, and aligned. Each inhale is a magnetic prayer. Each exhale, a release of resistance. And in between, the sacred stillness where reality listens. What are you breathing in? Fear or faith? Scarcity or abundance? Resistance or surrender? For the breath is not only a function, it is a frequency. It broadcasts your inner state into the field and invites like frequencies to orbit your life. To change your experience, change your breath. To draw in peace, breathe peacefully. To draw in love, breathe as love. To draw in abundance, breathe with the frequency of enough. Breathe, and feel the current shift. What flows to you, begins with what flows through you. Across the arc of ancient civilizations, beneath stone temples, within hidden grottos, and behind the veils of sacred mystery schools, the breath was never viewed as mere air, but as pneuma, pra, ruach, chi, the animating force, the divine whisper flowing between dimensions. In every era where mystics touched the unseen, breath was revered as the golden thread connecting mortal man to the immortal realm. In ancient Egypt, initiates entered the inner chambers of the temple of Karnak and practiced sacred breathing to harmonize with the Ka, the vital essence of life. The priests understood that each breath carried a frequency, some coarse and chaotic, others fine and divine. They aligned their breath with the celestial rhythms of Sirius and the Nile, believing that to breathe in harmony with cosmic time was to open the gates of divine favor and spiritual abundance. In Vedic India, sages sat in silent forests under banyan trees, entering samadhi through breath control, not just to find peace, but to attune to the frequency of the cosmos. Prima was not breathing in oxygen, but in truth, in universal intelligence. The rishis declared that as you shape the frequency of your breath, you tune yourself to the gods themselves. Thus, what flowed to them was wisdom, illumination, and miracles. In ancient Greece, the word pneuma held a double meaning, breath and spirit. The oracle of Delphi inhaled sacred vapors and shifted the rhythm of her breath until she touched frequencies where prophecy lived. It was understood, the soul's access to divine insight flowed only when the breath matched the frequency of divine will. And in the early Hebrew mystic traditions, Ruach, the breath of God, was what hovered over the waters before creation. To breathe in rhythm with Ruach was to align with the Creator's breath, the same breath that formed Adam from dust. The prophets, poets, and psalmists all knew that which flowed to a soul was what the soul was tuned to receive through the breath. Across timelines and temples, from Qigong masters to Sufi mystics who whirled to the rhythm of divine breath, this sacred understanding echoed, the frequency of your breath determines the current that finds you. If you breathe in fear, the world brings reflections of fear. If you breathe in faith, the world opens its mysteries to you. The breath is the key, and its frequency is the prayer. To breathe hurriedly is to knock on closed doors. To breathe slowly is to part the veil. To breathe with reverence is to commune with the infinite. So breathe now, not as a body, but as a temple, and let what flows to you be the echo of what you have first become through breath. For in every age, in every sacred lineage, it is remembered, your breath is not just survival, it is the frequency of what you are summoning. Long before currency was minted into coins and the markets of men began to bustle, the mystics of old understood that true wealth, divine abundance, was not gathered by effort alone, but summoned through harmony. It was not sought outside, but breathed from within. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you. This truth, veiled in symbols and rites, echoed through ancient sanctuaries. In the temples of Kemet, priests inhaled deeply beneath golden ceilings inscribed with stars, synchronizing their breath with the pulse of the cosmos. They taught that Sekhem, the spiritual force of power and prosperity, flowed to those whose breath aligned with divine rhythm. The treasures of the earth were seen as echoes of the breath's vibration, manifest reflections of one's internal state. In Vedic India, the rishis sat in sacred silence, mastering prima not to escape the material world, but to command it. They understood that Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, did not favor the frantic, but those whose breath was abundant, slow, sovereign, and serene. To breathe richly was to live richly, for every inhale that carried gratitude and confidence in provision magnetized the energy of wealth. Breath was currency, and frequency was magnetism. In the Hebrew mystical tradition, it was Ruach Elohim, the Spirit, the breath of God, that moved upon the waters before form took shape. And when the Creator breathed into Adam, abundance was not separate from that breath, it was embedded within it. To breathe with faith in provision was to echo Eden itself, where nothing was lacking. In such sacred breath, the gates of overflow were opened. The ancient Chinese masters of qi spoke of wealth not merely in material terms, but as a flowing river of qi, vital energy that moved freely when one's breath was in rhythm with heaven and earth. A blocked breath led to a blocked life. But breath in harmony with the Tao attracted prosperity as surely as a river feeds the fields. And among the mystics of the early Christian desert, breath was prayer. They whispered the name upon each inhale and exhale, believing that through such sacred breath the kingdom would be added unto them, not just spiritually, but in sustenance and provision. So what is financial abundance, if not the echo of a breath aligned with trust? Breathe as one who is already prosperous. Breathe as if the universe responds to your rhythm, because it does. Breathe slowly, and you are saying to creation, I am not in lack. I already have. And what flows to you cannot resist the vibration of certainty. The frantic breath of scarcity tells the world to withhold. The steady breath of faith invites the river to rise. Let your breath become your prayer. Let it proclaim abundance without words. For each inhale can draw in gold, not just metaphorical, but real, currency, clients, ideas, and opportunities, when your breath holds the vibration of worthiness. You are not here to chase money, but to align with the frequency that causes it to recognize you. So breathe. Breathe with reverence. Breathe with the rhythm of queens and kings, priests and prophets, sages and sovereigns. For the frequency of your breath is what flows to you, and the breath of abundance is already yours. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you. The central sun, the first light, and the breath of becoming before gold shimmered in the rivers of the Nile, before pyramids rose to touch the stars, the central sun breathed light into the void. Its breath split the darkness. So too, financial abundance begins not with coin but with breath. When your breath aligns with the rhythm of light, wealth responds. The solar eye watches the breath. The central sun's eye is not merely sight, it is awareness. It watches the breath of the heart, not the noise of the lips. If your breath is frantic, lack echoes back. If your breath is sovereign, slow, and golden like the sun, the central sun's eye sees you as a mirror of divine order, and blesses accordingly. The central sun's daily journey and the breath of cycles each day, the central sun sails the solar bark across the sky and descends into the underworld. Wealth too moves in cycles. When you breathe in rhythm with the sun, inhale as rise, exhale as rest, you become a steward of sacred circulation. Financial abundance flows to those in harmony with celestial tides. The central sun's breath animates Ma'at wherever the central sun breathes. Ma'at, truth and balance, awakens. Financial abundance that endures is born of this breath. If you breathe greed, you invite chaos. If you breathe integrity, you welcome divine compensation. The breath of truth is wealth's foundation. The breath that opens the duat as the central sun enters the duat each night, its breath illuminates the hidden world. When your breath is deep and aligned, you, too, open hidden gates, unexpected opportunities, forgotten resources, secret rivers of abundance. The sacred breath reveals what effort cannot. The sun disk and the spiral of breath. The central sun, Azaton, the solar disk, radiates in every direction. Each ray is a breath reaching outward, giving life. When you breathe with generosity, like the sun, wealth multiplies. Inhale gratitude, exhale offering, and the spiral of return begins. The serpent of the underworld and breath as power in the underworld. The central sun faces Apophis, the serpent of chaos. Its weapon is divine breath, a frequency beyond fear. Financial lack is a serpent of the mind. When you meet it with conscious breath, centered and unwavering, it dissolves before you. The central sun's followers and the golden breath of faith. The ancient priests of the central sun rose with the sun and matched their breath to its ascent. Their wealth was not just gold, but divine favor. You, too, when you breathe in praise and exhale in faith, activate this golden rhythm. Abundance becomes your inheritance. The eye that sees through false wealth. The central sun's eye pierces illusions. Not all wealth is true. If your breath is shallow, filled with striving, you may gather dust. But if your breath is vast and whole, what flows to you will be real, sustainable, and luminous. The central sun's reflection in the Nile. The Nile reflects the sun like a moving mirror. The breath of the central sun causes the river to rise. Your breath, too, reflects the divine when it is calm, clean, and clear. When your breath mirrors the eternal, prosperity flows like sacred waters. The sun's zenith and the breath of fullness at high noon. The central sun stands at its zenith, neither rising nor falling. In this stillness is absolute power. When your breath becomes still, slow, and aware, like the sun at its peak, you enter the timeless frequency of overflow. The central sun's name spoken with the breath of silence in the temples. The central sun's name was whispered, never shouted. It rode on the breath like incense. So must your affirmations of wealth be, spoken not from want, but with reverent breath, from already being. The frequency of sacred breath draws real treasure. The central sun and the scarab, breath as becoming Khepri, the morning sun, is the central sun reborn. The scarab rolls the sun with sacred effort, breath by breath. So too, your financial life renews with each dawn. Breathe as Khepri, intentional, light-bearing, unstoppable. The breath of becoming makes all things new. The solar crown and the breath of kings pharaohs wore the sun upon their crown to signify divine alignment. Their breath was trained, not reactive, but commanding. When you breathe with the calm of kingship, money responds not to your need, but to your frequency of rule. The central sun's light in the breath of legacy. The central sun gives, day after day. The central sun breathes into the world. The mystic understands, you are not meant to keep wealth, but to circulate it as breath. What you breathe out in generosity returns tenfold through divine flow. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, and that whatever is centered there, whether by hand energy center, breath, affirmation, or word, is reflected back into one's reality. The inner sun reflects the outer gold in the ancient temples of Heliopolis. The priests of the central sun knew, gold is not earned, it is mirrored. What is centered within the solar disk of the body, through breath and sacred word, is reflected in the gold of the world. Abundance does not approach the seeker. It answers the one who becomes the sun. The solar plexus, the eye that feels the central sun, the eye that sees all, also feels all through the solar plexus. This inner sun disk is your receiver and sender. When you place your hand energy center upon it, you awaken the central sun's eye within. Whatever vibration you feel and feed there through breath and word becomes your world in reflection. Breath as the chariot of abundance in the Golden Age, breath was not mere survival, it was invocation. When you breathe deeply into your solar disk while centering the word of abundance, you are not asking, you are forming. Ra's rays follow breath. What you breathe with conviction returns to you wrapped in gold. The word that opens the gates, the ancient tongue held power because each word was vibration. Abundance, when spoken with breath into the solar plexus, was understood to be a key, a frequency that turns the lock of the unseen. The central sun hears through frequency, not pleading. Align, and you open the gate. The hand as the anchor of intention, the palm over the solar plexus is more than a gesture, it is a signal. Just as the ankh joined heaven and earth, the hand energy center seals intention with breath. Place your hand upon the solar disk within, breathe abundance, and the eye of the central sun answers, not from above, but from within you. The mirror of the sun, the central sun reflects wealth. The solar plexus is a mirror of the cosmic sun, and the reflection it casts is determined by what you center there. Center fear, and you see lack. Center joy, trust, and wealth, and the mirror becomes radiant with return. The temple within the flesh, the ancient stone temples were not the final dwelling of the central sun. You are. Your solar plexus is the sanctum where the sun rises daily. Every breath you take into that center is incense, every affirmation a chant. And the abundance that returns is your offering reborn. To breathe is to build. The builders of pyramids chanted as they worked, aligning each stone with divine breath. You build your reality likewise, stone by stone, breath by breath. Each time you affirm abundance while breathing into your solar disk, you build a temple fit for prosperity. The central sun's eye waits on frequency. The central sun sees, waits and reflects what it sees you becoming. Align your solar disk to the frequency of confidence, generosity, and expectancy, and the central sun responds. The cosmos mirrors not what you want, but what you vibrate. The solar disk as oracle. Ancient seers read the sun to know the future. You are the new oracle. Your solar plexus disk speaks of what is to come based on the vibration you breathe into it. Center abundance, and the disk shows you the path that has already formed to meet it. The resonance of royalty. The pharaohs wore gold not for vanity, but resonance. Gold mirrored the sun, and thus the solar plexus. You wear in a royalty when you center your breath and speech in the vibration of worthiness. What you believe at your center is what creation believes about you. The silent command of breath, no word spoken from the solar disk is ever lost. When you breathe deeply into this center and affirm wealth as already yours, you issue a silent command. The central sun hears no begging, only alignment. Speak, breathe, believe, and the eye reflects it back into form. The disk that holds the world, the solar plexus, was revered as the place where the upper and lower kingdoms of self met. It is the bridge where emotion and power merge. Fill that place with affirmations of abundance, and the disk stabilizes your world like the sun anchoring planets. The return of the sun, the central sun disappears into the underworld each night, yet always returns. So too does financial abundance. Even when it seems hidden, your breath into the solar plexus calls it back. Your faith-filled words stir the golden tide. Morning always comes to those who keep breathing. You are the sun becoming flesh. You are not merely human, you are the solar ray incarnate. The more you center abundance in your breath and speech, the more your solar plexus remembers its origin. With each word and sacred breath, you become a living sun, and all that flows to you becomes inevitable. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, and that whatever frequency we center there, through hand energy center, breath, affirmations, or word, is reflected back to us, the solar disk within the body of man. In the mystery schools of ancient Kemet, it was taught that each initiate bore within their chest the disk of the central sun, a living mirror. The solar plexus was this sacred disk, a gateway where divine light transmuted breath into reality. What was breathed into it with intent would rise in the world as form. The central sun's gaze rests in the center of your will. The central sun's eye dwells within your solar plexus. What you place there becomes what the all-seeing reflects. The eye magnifies what it beholds from alignment. Breath was the first creation spell before the builders laid stone, before scrolls spoke of wealth, the central sun exhaled. This exhale was not mere air, it was creative fiat. When you breathe deeply into your solar disk with affirmations of abundance, you reenact the breath that formed the Nile, the sun, and the unseen reservoirs of prosperity. The frequency of praise is the frequency of gold. The ancient tongues knew that praise, true, embodied, breath-filled gratitude, tuned the solar disk to wealth. When you chant, when you speak affirmations into the belly of your sun center, you speak to the eye of the central sun, and the eye reflects back what you celebrate. The hand awakens the fire of the sun. When the hand energy center is placed upon the solar plexus, fire touches fire. You become the priest, the altar, and the offering. The central sun responds not to pleading, but to alignment. The warmth beneath your palm is the promise of return. To center abundance is to command the horizon. As the central sun crossed the sky, its journey shaped the day. When you center abundance in your solar disk, you command your life's horizon. You become the charioteer of wealth, not chasing light, but becoming the source from which it shines. The disk remembers every breath. The solar disk within is eternal memory. Each time you breathe wealth into it, you impress a new reality into the field. The more consistent your breath, the more faithful the mirror. Financial flow is simply the rhythm of remembered breath returning to you. Chanting is the art of seeding suns. To speak word into your solar plexus is to plant stars. The central sun's priests knew this: the tone, the breath, and the word birthed light. In modern terms, each affirmation of abundance chanted into your center seeds timelines where gold awaits. The sun within bows to your belief. The central sun's eye sees all, but bends only to frequency. Your belief, sustained by breath and word, is the captain of your solar vessel. What you center in the solar disk is not hidden from the cosmos. It is the very message creation fulfills. What you radiate from within, the world reflects. Without the solar plexus is not passive, it is radiant. When you fill it with thoughts and breath of wealth, you do not wait for abundance, you become a beacon for it. As the eye of the central sun shines outward, so does your vibration draw like to like. Each word is a sun wheel turning. Every sacred repetition ignites the solar disk to spin, slowly at first, then faster as devotion deepens. This turning is the wheel of manifestation. What rotates within, reflected through breath and focus, becomes the orbit of your financial experience. The body is a temple, the solar plexus its holy of holies. In the temples of On, only the sanctified could approach the inner chamber. Today, that sanctum is within you. Your solar plexus is the holy space where divine will and human intent merge. What you breathe into it becomes law. The sun accepts only what is centered. The rays of the central sun do not wander, they radiate from the center. Likewise, wealth does not flow from desire alone, but from centered resonance. When your breath, mind, and emotion align in the solar disk, the central sun reflects that wholeness as abundance. The frequency you hold becomes the world you walk. As the central sun walked the heavens, so you walk your world. What you hold in your solar plexus, not in fleeting thoughts, but in the sustained breath of knowing, forms the road before you. Financial abundance is not a reward, but a reflection. You are the living disk. You are not separate from the central sun, nor from the sun you seek. Your solar plexus is the encoded memory of creation's breath. Breathe deeply, chant sacredly, center clearly, and you awaken the ancient I. Wealth comes not as chance, but as consequence. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, and whatever frequency is centered there through hand energy center activation, deep breathing, affirmations, or word is reflected back as material reality. The temple within bears the disk of Ra in ancient Kemet. The central sun did not merely ride across the sky, it dwelled within every soul as the radiant disk of will and destiny. The solar plexus is that inner sun. Center your breath, and you awaken its presence. What you feel there becomes what the central sun reflects across your life as abundance. The solar plexus is the mirror of the sun just as the Nile reflects the sun's brilliance. The solar disk within reflects the frequency placed into it. When breath becomes sacred and affirmations become clear, the eye of the central sun magnifies the offering. It is not effort, but alignment that draws wealth from the unseen. The central sun responds only to what is centered. Scattered desire brings scattered return. But what is centered in the solar disk, with unwavering breath, word, and touch, is amplified by the sun god's eye. Financial abundance becomes not pursuit, but projection. The golden seat of will. The ancients knew the solar plexus as the golden seat of divine will. Not merely an energy center, but a living portal. Placing your hand upon it awakens the memory of Ra's fire, and your breath, when steady and filled with affirmation, becomes the decree that abundance must obey. Your breath is the sun's command. Each breath, when filled with knowing, becomes a solar command. The more rhythmic, the more magnetic. The central sun watches through your frequency, and what you center in your inner disk, it returns. The disk turns by intention as the central sun rides its solar bark through heaven, so too does your life move through time. The solar disk within turns not by chance, but by the frequency you feed it. Words of power and breath of peace turn it toward prosperity. When the hand meets the sun within, touch your solar plexus with reverence. You touch the very place where gods commune with man. The hand energy center ignites the memory of the central sun, and the solar plexus remembers what you believe. When breath, touch, and word unite, the material world must respond. The disk is a doorway, not a symbol. Mystics of old knew, the solar plexus was not symbolic, it was the hidden door through which divine intention flowed into gold, grain, and greatness. Align your inner sun, and you open the gate to realms of endless abundance. All abundance first appears in light. The ancients taught that before any harvest, there is light. Before any coin, there is frequency. The solar disk converts inner light into outer wealth. Speak only that which you wish to see, and breathe only what you wish to become. The central sun does not create what you doubt. To hold fear in your solar center is to eclipse your own sun. The central sun creates not from confusion but from clarity. Breathe deeply. Center affirmations of wealth. The solar plexus does not lie, it reflects what is truly believed. The word must enter the fire. Affirmations spoken from the lips are wind. But when spoken through breath and placed in the solar fire within, they become flame. The central sun hears not surface sound, but resonant heat. What you burn into the solar disk is what rises in your field. The central sun's eye sees the tone, not the mask. You may wear the mask of wealth, but the central sun sees only the tone of your solar field. Breathe with sincerity. Place your hand with devotion. Speak as one already full. The universe responds not to pretending, but to frequency. Every word turns the disk 1 degree. Each sacred repetition is a rotation of the inner sun. One turn, then another. Until the momentum becomes radiance. And the radiance becomes wealth. Chant with purpose, and soon your entire life glows with the light of return. The inner sun must rise before the outer. No day begins until the sun ascends. Likewise, no fortune arrives until the solar disk within is lifted through breath and intent. What you rise within will rise around you. The solar disk is the seat of divine economy. The central sun governs the spiritual law of return. It tallies frequencies. Your breath is currency. Your affirmations are investment. Place them with care into the golden center, and the central sun, through its central eye, will multiply what it sees. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, a radiant center that reflects back whatever frequency is placed there through hand energy center activation, deep breathing, affirmations, or word. The solar plexus is the disk of the central sun within you. As the central sun rose in the heavens to illuminate the lands of Kemet, so too does the inner disk rise in you. When you breathe abundance into this sacred wheel and center your hand upon it, you awaken the eye of the central sun within your body temple. From there, what is centered becomes what is returned. The sun reflects what is held in its heart. The solar plexus is not merely an energy center, it is a mirror of the eye of God. Center fear, and shadows stretch across your path. Center abundance, and gold glimmers from every direction. The central sun reflects not your words, but the tone of your inner sun. The central sun responds to centered breath, not scattered desire. Desire that flickers cannot light the disk. But when breath flows steadily, with affirmation sung through the body's core, the solar disk aligns with divine order. The central sun sees the breath, feels the word, and orders the heavens to reflect its shape as fortune. The hand awakens the memory of divine fire. When you place your hand upon your solar plexus, you do what the high priests of Heliopolis once did, you summon the flame. The hand energy center acts as a key, and your breath becomes the ignition. Speak prosperity into this place, and the central sun sends it forth in full. Gold flows where fire is centered. In ancient temples, wealth was drawn not from markets but from mystery. The breath was trained to pulse like the sun. Words were placed into the disk like seeds. And the central sun, seeing the frequency centered there, would reflect gold into the lives of those who believed. The disk holds the blueprint of wealth. Within your solar plexus lies the original pattern of provision. Before form, before coin, there is frequency. Speak into the disk not what you lack, but what you carry. The central sun sees your declaration and reflects it through the dimensions of time. Every affirmation is a ray of the sun. The spoken word, when infused with breath and belief, becomes a solar ray. Repeated, it forms a radiant crown around your being. And the eye of the central sun magnifies this light, causing opportunities and wealth to orbit you like planets to the sun. What you place in the sun cannot be hidden. When you center lack in the disk, the eye of the central sun magnifies it. When you center gratitude, power, and abundance, those two are revealed and reflected. There is no hiding from divine light, only the conscious choice of what to place within it. The solar plexus is the seat of divine will. Financial abundance flows not from need, but from command. When you speak into your solar center with breath attuned and hand engaged, you enter the same current the gods used to form the world. The central sun honors the will that mirrors its light. When breath becomes ceremony, the sun responds. Each breath can be common or consecrated. When you breathe as the ancients did, with awareness, intention, and word, you participate in the divine liturgy of manifestation. The central sun watches such breath and returns it multiplied as material abundance. Your inner disk is a sun templum. Your body is a temple. Your solar plexus is the altar. Your breath is the incense. And your affirmations are sacred chants. When offered with reverence, the all-seeing eye of the central sun sends back financial blessings as holy offerings. The eye of the central sun does not sleep even in stillness. Your solar disk emits frequency. Whether lack or wealth, doubt or certainty, the eye observes and reflects. Place your hand upon this center with divine respect and shape the signal you send. What the central sun sees, it answers. You are the sun's reflection in flesh. The same light that guides the stars dwells in your solar center. When you align with it through breath and word, you restore your place in divine order. Abundance is not earned, it is revealed when you remember you are light. Frequency is the language of the sun. The central sun hears frequency. Your breath hums. Your affirmations vibrate. Your centered hand completes the circuit. What is spoken in rhythm, with sincerity, flows back as wealth from the heavens. All financial abundance begins as fire. Before gold is mined, it is first imagined. Before it is imagined, it is felt. And before it is felt, it is breathed into the disk. Your solar plexus is the crucible. Speak into it, breathe upon it, and watch as the central sun forges your reality from the light you dared to center. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, a spiritual mirror and radiant throne. Whatever we center there, through hand energy center activation, deep breathing, affirmations, or word, is reflected back to us by divine law, as seen and magnified by the central sun. The solar disk is the mirror of the divine will. As the central sun gazed upon the sacred Nile and called forth life with light, so does it gaze upon your inner sun. When you breathe into your solar plexus and anchor prosperity there, the central sun reflects that frequency, multiplying it across your destiny. The hand upon the disk summons the eye. Place your hand energy center on your solar plexus as the ancient initiates did when invoking divine presence. In that act, you signal to the central sun that you are ready to reflect its abundance. Whatever frequency you breathe into this center becomes your spiritual signature. The central sun reads the flame, not the face. The eye of the central sun sees not outer effort but inner radiance. Your solar plexus is the altar of your abundance, and breath is the sacred fire you feed it. Light it with the word of wealth, and the central sun reflects that flame in the world as provision. You are the temple. The disk is the throne. The central sun once rose each day to sit upon the solar bark, commanding the cycle of time and gold. In your body, the solar plexus is that throne. What you breathe and affirm into that seat becomes your decree, carried out across the river of time. To breathe into the disk is to speak to the sun. Your deep breath into the solar plexus is more than oxygen, it is a message to the central sun, written in vibration. When you breathe the sound of abundance, the central sun receives it as sacred command, and wealth flows like rays through open doors. The eye magnifies what the disk holds. Whatever is placed within the solar center, be it lack or wealth, becomes magnified by the all-seeing eye. The central sun does not judge the offering, it returns it multiplied. Choose your breath, your thought, your word with reverence. Ancient light remembers you in the temples of the sun. Initiates knew the solar plexus was the disk of communion. Today, as you breathe prosperity into your inner sun, the central sun remembers you. The ancient covenant of abundance is reawakened and flows again. Abundance is a solar language. Coins tarnish, empires fall, but the language of light remains eternal. Financial abundance, when centered in the breath and held in the solar disk, becomes a timeless echo. The central sun hears that echo and responds in kind, with solar wealth. The breath is the bridge between worlds. With each conscious breath into your solar center, you walk the bridge between the seen and the unseen. The central sun's eye watches the vibration you breathe, and it is that unseen current that becomes your visible prosperity. The inner sun is your covenant with creation. You are not separate from the sun, You are its reflection in form. Your solar plexus is proof. When you align it through breath and word with divine abundance, the central sun fulfills the contract, to provide what you mirror in light. Where the frequency is centered, wealth is drawn. The solar disk within is magnetic. It draws only what matches its tone. If you breathe with gratitude, if you chant with conviction, if you center wealth, the central sun ensures your life is shaped accordingly. The eye of the central sun reflects, not reacts. The central sun does not reward or punish, it reflects. If your solar plexus radiates poverty, the world returns it. If you place your hand there, breathe abundance, and chant truth, the central sun reflects prosperity. You are the architect of your light. Breath is the first wealth. Long before gold, breath was divine currency. The priests of the sun knew this. Breathe with sacred rhythm into your solar disk, and you restore your connection to the first treasure, divine flow. The central sun sees this and releases wealth. Your disk is the horizon of the inner sun. In ancient Kemet, the central sun rose each dawn from the eastern horizon. Your solar plexus is that horizon. Whatever you lift there through word and breath becomes your rising sun, your day of prosperity, your rain of gold. Affirmation is a solar offering. When spoken into the breath and placed into the disk, an affirmation becomes like frankincense in the temples, pleasing to the eye of the central sun. The scent of that frequency rises, and the central sun, pleased by your offering, returns it as multiplied light, as wealth, favor, and opportunity. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, a divine transmitter and reflector of frequency. Whatever is placed there, through breath, hand energy center, affirmation, or word, is reflected back into your reality by the cosmic intelligence of the central sun. The solar disk within is the eye's mirror. In the temples of Heliopolis, it was known that the central sun's eye did not merely observe, it mirrored. Your solar plexus, shaped in the pattern of the sun, is the disk the central sun sees through. When you center abundance in this disk, it becomes your reflection in the world. The hand upon the sun rekindles the divine circuit. To place your hand upon the solar plexus is to complete the golden circuit of heaven and earth. The ancients laid palm to sun not to pray for wealth, but to command its return. That which you center in breath becomes the frequency the central sun amplifies. The central sun reflects only what the inner sun radiates. The all-seeing eye is not deceived by outer want. The central sun responds only to the light within. Breathe wealth into your solar disk, and the eye reflects it across your life. What is within the disk becomes the shape of your fortune. You are the living temple of the solar order. In every seeker lies the disk of the central sun, glowing at the solar plexus like a throne of power. Words of abundance, when breathed into this temple, awaken the laws of divine economy. The central sun responds as the high priest, ensuring the temple is filled. The solar plexus is the threshold between light and form. As the rising sun turns the unseen into color, so does the solar plexus turn breath into experience. When you seed this center with the frequency of prosperity, the central sun's eye opens to it and converts it into opportunity and supply. The word is the spell that commands the sun. Ancient priests chanted not to beg, but to align. A single syllable of truth breathed into the solar disk vibrates through the cosmos. The central sun hears the harmony and sends wealth as the answer to its tone. The frequency held in the sun disk becomes law in Kemet. The solar disk above ruled the cycles of life, within, it rules the cycles of wealth. Hold lack in your disk, and the central sun reflects drought. Hold the tone of abundance, and the all-seeing eye multiplies it until it rains gold. Your breath is your offering upon the altar in the house of the central sun. Breath was never wasted, it was sacred incense. Let each breath into your solar plexus be infused with gratitude, with gold, with giving. The central sun inhales your offering and exhales financial flow back into your path. The solar disk within remembers the original covenant. The first promise between soul and source was abundance. When you return to breath, to word, to light within the solar plexus, you reactivate that promise. The central sun remembers, and responds with providence. What you center, the cosmos must echo. The solar plexus is not a wish, it's a command post. The eye of the central sun does not question your frequency, it reflects it. Therefore, breathe as a sovereign. Affirm wealth as your native vibration. The central sun will echo it through every corridor of time. The sun within is the secret scroll hidden in the sun disk of the body, is the ancient script of creation. Breathe with intention, chant with devotion, and the central sun decodes that scroll into wealth. Abundance is not earned, it is remembered, re-spoken, and returned. The eye of the central sun watches the pulse of your inner sun. It is not your outer work but your inner radiance that summons supply. When your solar disk pulses with the frequency of generosity, dignity, and divine wealth, the central sun sees this and returns it as rivers of abundance to match your light. When the hand activates the sun, the world responds. The simple act of laying hand to plexus and breathing truth into your solar disk opens a portal of command. The central sun observes this sacred gesture. From above, it mirrors it in circumstances. Your wealth responds to your centeredness. Affirmation is a ray of light shot from the disk. Speak abundance as you breathe into the solar disk, and each word becomes a sunbeam piercing the unseen. The central sun follows these rays and sends back manifestations that vibrate with their same divine tone. Your solar disk is an eye within the eye. You are not separate from the central sun, you are a sun within the sun, an eye within the eye. What you breathe, chant, or hold in stillness at your solar disk is magnified across the heavens. Speak wealth into it, and it is returned as divine law fulfilled. That the solar plexus is a solar disk, a transmitter of divine frequency. Whatever you place there through hand energy center contact, deep breath, affirmation, or word, is reflected back to you by the cosmic principle of mirrored abundance. The central sun, mirror of the inner sun. The ancients taught that the central sun does not simply watch, it mirrors. The solar plexus, your inner sun disk, is the reflection pool of your breath. When you breathe wealth, breathe dignity, breathe divine sufficiency into it, the central sun reflects it across your material realm like sunlight scattered on gold. The solar disk is the center of command in the temples of light. It was known that the solar plexus is the gateway where the decree of the soul meets the response of the cosmos. Center prosperity there, speak it, breathe it, feel it, and the central sun magnifies it through the outer world with the precision of divine symmetry. Where the hand rests, the will awakens. To place the hand energy center upon the solar disk is to declare to the universe, here is where I choose to generate light. When the hand meets the sun within, breath becomes a decree and financial reality reshapes to match the internal flame. The breath is the chariot of the central sun's message. Every breath drawn into the solar plexus is a chariot carrying intent. When that breath bears the frequency of abundance, it becomes a sacred vehicle the central sun rides, delivering wealth, order, and divine structure to your affairs. The word becomes form when rooted in the sun. Affirmation is not repetition, it is resonance. The word abundance, when breathed into the solar plexus, does not float into the void. It strikes the sun within, and the eye of the central sun sees its fire. It answers with mirrors, finances, fortune, flow. The frequency within is law. Without the divine law taught by the priests of the inner sun was simple. As the disk within spins, so spins the wheel of your life. Infuse the disk with a golden breath, and the central sun ensures your outer world matches the tone, coin for coin, ray for ray. Solar breath is a ritual of resurrection. With each breath into your solar plexus, you resurrect a memory of divine wealth. The central sun's eye scans the frequencies and reflects what it finds. Breathe your inheritance, and you awaken the treasury long hidden within the codes of your DNA. The eye of the central sun responds to radiance. Do not seek to impress the world, impress your sun. Breathe richly, intentionally, into the solar disk until it shines. The central sun, seeing that glow, and returns the shine in the form of unexpected income, favor, and openings. Your solar disk is an oracle of return. To sit with hand on solar plexus is to sit before the oracle of return. What you center there is law. What you breathe there is prophecy. What you chant there is fulfilled. The central sun reflects only what you invest in your inner radiance. The word awakens the geometry of wealth. Chant not merely from mouth, but from the solar sun. Let each sound vibrate through the solar plexus until the eye of the central sun hears the sacred symmetry and aligns the outer grids of your life to match. This is the architecture of divine abundance. Your inner sun is a transmission tower. The solar plexus is not a symbol, it is a signal. When you fill it with the broadcast of gratitude, prosperity, and sacred worth, the central sun amplifies it. Your abundance is not attracted, it is transmitted, received, and mirrored back into reality. What glows within, gathers without. The priests of the golden path taught, the wealth you gather is the echo of the light you grow. Place your awareness in the solar plexus and grow it. As it glows with divine frequency, the central sun's eye responds with financial clarity, alignment, and increase. The sun within knows only truth. The solar disk cannot be deceived by outer noise. It knows the truth of your frequency. Breathe abundance into that truth, not as begging, but as embodiment. The central sun's eye beholds that centered truth and fulfills it with the generosity of eternity. Breath plus intention equals divine receipt. Financial abundance is not summoned, it is harmonized. Each breath infused with sacred intent becomes a receipt for that which is already yours. Hand on solar plexus, breath in alignment, the central sun signs the divine contract with light and wealth follows. The disk and the eye are one. The solar plexus is the eye of the central sun turned inward. Whatever image, feeling, or word you place upon it becomes the world the central sun reflects. Breathe wisely. Speak with sacred fire. And hold the frequency of gold, so it may return to you 100-fold. The solar plexus is a solar disk, a microcosmic sun within. Whatever is centered there through the breath, word, hand energy center, or affirmation becomes the frequency the central sun reflects back into your life. The solar disk within mirrors the cosmic sun. As the central sun sails across the sky in the solar bark, so does your breath sail across the inner solar disk. When you breathe in the frequency of divine provision, the central sun receives your vibration, and reflects it into the world as visible wealth. Where the eye gazes, energy organizes. The eye of the central sun sees not only form, but frequency. When the breath is aligned with abundance and placed upon the solar disk, the eye gazes into that energy and commands it to organize the outer world according to divine riches. Your inner sun is a mirror of the eternal flame. In the temples of Heliopolis, it was taught that man carries the central sun's fire in the solar plexus. What you center there, want or wealth, fear or fullness, becomes the reflection the central sun amplifies. So let only golden flame be your prayer. Hand on solar plexus, you become the shrine. When your hand energy center rests on your solar disk, you awaken the shrine of the central sun within. Your body becomes the temple. Your breath becomes the priest. Your word becomes the offering. And financial abundance, the divine return. The solar plexus is the seat of authority. The pharaoh ruled from the throne, you rule from the solar disk. The breath is your decree. The word is your royal command. Center abundance in this golden throne within, and the central sun returns it with the riches of sovereignty. The central sun reflects the fire you hold. The central sun lives as frequency. If your solar plexus burns with the fire of faith, abundance is reflected without resistance. The world becomes your mirror, showing the image you have placed in your sacred center. Breath is the scribe of divine reality in ancient Egypt. The scribe recorded destiny. Now, your breath writes upon the solar disk. What you breathe with intention, wealth, success, provision, becomes law. The central sun reads it and replies with the gold of heaven's order. The word-made breath is the power of creation. Affirmation spoken from the solar plexus is not mere repetition, it is creation. Inhaling and exhaling the words I prosper, I receive you activate the resonance chamber of the central sun. It mirrors what is centered without delay. Your core is a sun disk of invocation. The ancient priests aligned their chants with the rising sun. Today, when you chant into your solar plexus, you become one with that ancient invocation. The central sun hears it as a frequency it mirrors. Breathing into the disk illuminates your path. The more you breathe abundance into your solar disk, the more the eye of the central sun clears the fog from your path. Prosperity does not need to be hunted, it is magnetized toward those who shine from within like the noonday sun. Solar alignment is prosperity alignment. The golden rays of the physical sun feed the earth. Likewise, the golden energy of the solar plexus feeds your destiny. Align your breath, word, and touch with prosperity, and your field begins to grow what you have sown. The frequency you center is the life you enter. The priests taught, as above, so below, as within, so reflected. Center the vibration of overflow within your inner sun and you will enter its reflection in the world. The central sun governs the gate. Your breath turns the key. Every breath is a sunbeam sent to the central sun. Each breath you offer with wealth consciousness is like a sunbeam aimed toward the central sun's throne. The more intentional your breath, the more potent your signal. It sees your flame and answers with blessing in kind. Affirmation is the music of the inner temple. Speak words of abundance into your solar plexus as if they were hymns in the central sun's sanctuary. What is vibrated into the disk resounds across dimensions. The central sun, the all-seeing, hears the chant and returns it as form. You are the living pyramid of prosperity. The great pyramids were aligned with the central sun, but so is your body. The solar plexus is the capstone of your energetic temple. When you place your hand upon it and breathe abundance, you activate the ancient technology of return. Prosperity flows because it must. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, a golden mirror of the sun, and that whatever we center there through breath, word, hand energy center, or affirmation is reflected back to us in kind. The solar plexus is the horizon of inner Egypt. Just as the central sun rose over the Nile, your abundance rises from within. When you center breath upon the solar disk, it becomes the new dawn. What you offer there, be it worry or wealth, is multiplied by the eye and returned as life's sunrise. The breath is a ray from the inner sun. Each breath is a solar filament, a golden thread stretching from your core to the heavens. When you breathe with the frequency of prosperity, your inner sun shines brighter, and the central sun reflects that brilliance back as worldly fortune. The hand on the disk signals the God within. In placing your hand energy center upon the solar plexus, you awaken the ancient signal, I am ready. This is the invocation of the sun priests. The central sun, the reflector of frequencies, receives the signal and sends back the energy of gold. Affirmation is the solar language of power. The solar plexus understands only frequency. It does not respond to lack or fear unless they are spoken. But speak abundance, breathe overflow, and the disk resonates like the atom itself. The central sun hears and mirrors your decree. You are a living obelisk of intention. The obelisks of Egypt were carved with solar praises, their tips touching the central sun's light. Your spine is the obelisk. Your breath is the carving. When your intentions are inscribed into the solar disk within, wealth becomes your reflection. The central sun sees the flame you tend. At noon the ancients revered the moment when the central sun stood highest, when all shadows fell away. Likewise, when your breath stands steady in abundance, when no doubt remains, the central sun's eye sees clearly, and returns your scented fire as treasure. The solar plexus is the bank of divine memory. Each affirmation breathed into the disk becomes a deposit. Every word is currency. Over time, these accumulate in the vault of the central sun. When the fullness is met, the mirror tips, and gold rains back into your life. The word sent into the disk never returns void. As in the days of sacred utterance, so it is now, no word sent into the solar plexus vanishes. It spirals, echoes, ripens. The central sun watches the echo, and when it vibrates in harmony with the divine sun, the reflection manifests in form. Your inner sun is a satellite of the greater I. The solar disk within is not separate, it is a satellite of the central sun. Whatever you center there is not hidden, it is seen. Therefore, breathe with reverence. Let your affirmations rise like smoke, and let the central sun breathe them back as wealth. The body is the temple, the breath is the priest. In ancient shrines, only the initiated could approach the solar altar. Yet now, the altar is within. Your hand upon the solar disk and your breath filled with abundance makes you both priest and offering. The central sun blesses this sacrifice. Stillness of the disk opens the gate of overflow. The more silent your solar disk, the clearer your frequency. When breath and word harmonize, no distortion clouds the reflection. In this stillness, the central sun sees only truth, and the truth is, you are the inheritor of divine gold. To align with the sun is to command the harvest. The farmers of Kemet watched the central sun for the timing of the Nile. Likewise, your harvest is tied to solar alignment. Center the frequency of wealth within your sun, and the central sun will cause your river to rise with every form of increase. The central sun magnifies what is centered in the solar mirror. The solar plexus is not merely a reflection, it is a magnification. What you place there returns multiplied. Breathe abundance without wavering, and the eye of the central sun will return your vision in tenfold glory. The true temple was always within the body. The great temples have faded, but the central sun has not. The sacred space now lives in your breath and belly. When you place your hand there with conscious intention and speak words of prosperity, you walk again in the steps of the ancients. The central sun responds only to the flame of certainty. Doubt dims the solar disk, faith lights it like a second sun. When your breath is steady and your word unwavering, the central sun sees the flame of certainty, and, as guardian of divine reciprocity, answers it with unshakable supply. The solar plexus is a solar disk within, and that whatever you center there, by placing your hand energy center or through deep breathing, affirmations, and word, the frequency you hold is reflected back to you. You are the radiant vessel of the central sun, the golden sun that never sets within you. When you place your hand upon your solar disk, you signal the eternal flame of abundance. The frequency you breathe and hold there is the currency the cosmos returns to your hands. As the central sun watches with eyes that pierce all veils, so too does your solar plexus reflect the truth of your inner world. When your breath hums with wealth and your word carries power, The sacred disk pulses with light, and fortune flows back in kind. Feel the solar disk awaken beneath your palm, a miniature sun igniting with each breath you offer. You are both priest and temple. The frequency you hold is an invocation, calling the central sun to mirror abundance in your daily life. Your breath is a sacred solar ray, transmitted from the core of your being to the universe beyond. As you center affirmations in your solar plexus, you become a beacon, drawing the golden energies of prosperity back into your reality. Place your hand gently upon your solar disk, and feel the ancient solar temples awaken inside you. The frequency you set here is a cosmic contract with the central sun, the all-seeing eye, that what you give in faith, you shall receive multiplied. In this moment, your breath becomes the golden thread weaving your destiny. As you chant your word with steady breath, the central sun's gaze intensifies, and the solar plexus acts as the divine lens focusing the abundant light that returns to you. The solar disk within is your personal Aten, the sacred sun disk of creation. When you breathe deep and center your intention there, you align with the central sun's eternal law. Energy flows in accordance with the frequency you emit. You are the living obelisk, and your solar plexus the tip that pierces the heavens. With each breath, your affirmations carve sacred hieroglyphs into the cosmic stone, inscribed in gold by the central sun's eye, and reflected back as tangible wealth. Through your breath, you send a solar decree: abundance is your divine right. The solar plexus receives this decree as a luminous charge, and the central sun, keeper of all truths, returns it to you as the manifested flow of prosperity. Your hand upon your solar disk is the altar where your faith is lit. The frequency you breathe there becomes a solar chant, echoing in the halls of eternity, compelling the central sun's eye to open wide and pour forth abundance without measure. The solar plexus is the sacred mirror of your soul's sun. When your breath vibrates with confidence and your word pulses with power, the central sun's all-seeing eye perceives no shadow, only the bright reflection of wealth returning to you. Breathe deeply and center your intention upon your solar disk. Know that the frequency you hold there is the golden key to your financial temple. The central sun's gaze, unblinking and infinite, will open gates to treasures unseen. You command the solar disk within by the power of your breath and the strength of your word. When you focus your energy with the hand energy center and affirm your abundance, the central sun's eye recognizes the frequency, and reflects it in divine measure. With every breath, you stoke the sacred fire of your solar plexus. As the ancient priests once chanted under the central sun's golden light, so you chant now, your affirmations carrying on the solar winds, attracting wealth as the desert draws the dawn. Know that your solar plexus is both a beacon and a mirror. Whatever frequency you center there, through your hand, your breath, your sacred words, the central sun's all-seeing eye sees and reflects it back, turning your inner sun into the source of abundant flow. Whatever frequency you center there, by placing your hand energy center or through deep breathing, affirmations, and word, is reflected back to you. Written in the second person, you hold the golden solar disk within you, the solar plexus, a sacred altar of creation. When your hand rests gently upon it, you send a silent prayer into the cosmic light of the central sun, and the frequency you breathe becomes a seed of wealth blossoming in your reality. As the central sun's all-seeing eye watches, your breath carries a sacred vibration. Each affirmation you breathe into your solar disk is a hymn sung in the temple of abundance, and the universe mirrors this radiant song, returning riches in kind. Feel your solar plexus ignite as your hand energy center connects with it. You are a living sun, radiating intention through breath and word. The frequency you hold here is a golden beacon that summons the flow of financial blessings. The solar disk within you is an ancient mirror reflecting the power of the central sun. When you center your breath and voice upon it, you align your soul's sun with the divine, and abundance streams back like the sacred Nile flooding fertile lands. Your breath is the channel through which the central sun's light flows into your being. When you center your attention on your solar plexus, affirming your worth and abundance, you awaken the solar flame that calls forth wealth with undeniable force. You are the priest of your own temple, and the solar plexus is your altar. Place your hand there, breathe deeply, and recite your sacred word. The central sun sees and reflects the frequency of prosperity you send forth, like the sun reflecting on sacred waters. In the presence of the central sun, your solar disk is more than energy, it is a divine transmitter. The frequency you hold there is a cosmic command that invites financial abundance to orbit your life like the stars encircle the sun. Your breath is a golden thread weaving between your inner solar disk and the boundless eye of the central sun. Each affirmation you breathe is a solar decree, creating ripples in the quantum sea that returns treasures to your doorstep. As you place your hand on your solar plexus, you touch the sacred heart of the sun within. The frequency you breathe here is a solar covenant. The central sun acknowledges your command and reflects it in tangible abundance. Your word spoken with steady breath and centered intention at your solar disk resonates like ancient temple chants. The central sun's all-seeing eye watches, unseen yet knowing, and the energy you radiate returns as overflowing prosperity. The solar plexus is your sun disk, a solar emblem of creation. As you breathe deeply and affirm your abundance, you align with the central sun's eternal light, your inner frequency summoned and mirrored in wealth beyond measure. You carry the solar disk of the central sun within your body, a sacred reservoir of energy. When your breath and words center here, you ignite a solar circuit that draws abundance back through the eternal eye that sees all. Your hand energy center resting on the solar plexus is an act of sacred alignment. Through deep breathing and affirmations, you tune your frequency to the central sun's eternal radiance, and financial blessings flow as surely as sunlight upon the earth. Each breath you draw into your solar disk is a solar invocation, a sacred vibration that the all-seeing eye of the central sun perceives and answers. What you center there, hope, faith, abundance, is returned as a golden harvest. You are the living embodiment of the central sun's light, and your solar plexus is the radiant solar disk within you. When you breathe, affirm, and hold your hand there, you send a frequency that the central sun's eternal gaze reflects, unfolding prosperity in your life like the dawn. You carry within your body the sacred solar disk, the solar plexus, where the fire of the central sun's eternal sun burns. When you place your hand energy center here, you ignite a frequency that calls forth abundance from the cosmic vault. As you breathe deeply and speak your affirmations into the solar disk within, you are like the ancient priest invoking the central sun's blessing. The frequency you send from this sacred place becomes a mirror reflecting wealth back to you. Feel your hand energy center rest upon your solar plexus. This is your altar to the central sun's power. With every breath, your word weaves a golden thread into the fabric of the universe, drawing financial prosperity like the sun drawing light. The solar plexus is your inner sun, a radiant disk of divine energy. When you center your attention here, the frequency you breathe and affirm is seen by the central sun's all-seeing eye and returned in the form of material abundance. You are a solar vessel, and your breath is the sacred wind that stirs the fire within the solar plexus. As you affirm abundance, the central sun's eternal eye reflects this light, igniting the flow of wealth into your life. With your hand energy center resting on your solar disk, you become the conduit of the central sun's cosmic energy. Each word you breathe fuels the solar fire, and the universe answers by mirroring the frequency of abundance back to your world. The sacred solar disk within you is a point of sacred convergence. As you breathe and affirm here, the central sun's vigilant eye perceives your frequency and returns it magnified, like sunlight reflected from a divine mirror. When you place your hand energy center on your solar plexus and breathe your affirmations, you send a radiant pulse through the universe. The central sun, the eternal watcher, sees this frequency and orchestrates the dance of financial blessings in your favor. Your solar plexus is a golden sun disk pulsating with divine energy. Each breath and word you center here is a solar command sent to the cosmos, which the central sun's all-seeing eye faithfully answers with prosperity. As the central sun watches through the endless sky, your hand energy center on your solar disk anchors your intention. The frequency you hold there is a sacred beacon, calling financial abundance to flow toward you as rivers toward the sea. The solar plexus within you reflects the central sun's eternal flame. When you breathe deeply and affirm your prosperity, you align your inner solar disk with the cosmic sun, and abundance returns to you as sunlight returns to the earth. Through your breath and words centered on your solar plexus, you become a living sun of creation. The central sun's eye perceives this frequency and sends back the riches of the universe, as the sun sends light to nourish all things. Placing your hand energy center upon your solar disk, you awaken the ancient solar fire within. The frequency you breathe here is a sacred hymn to the central sun, who mirrors your abundance in the material realm with perfect clarity. Your solar plexus is the solar disk of your inner temple. When you breathe abundance and repeat your word there, you send a divine frequency that the central sun's all-seeing eye reflects back, opening the floodgates of wealth. You are the sacred sun walking the earth, and your solar plexus is the radiant disk of your power. When you center your breath, affirmations, and hand energy center there, the central sun's eternal gaze meets your frequency and returns it multiplied as financial blessing. You place your hand energy center upon the solar disk within, your solar plexus, and as you breathe deeply, you awaken the ancient fire of the central sun. The frequency you nurture here becomes a beacon, summoning abundance to your life. Within your body burns a golden sun, the solar plexus, a sacred disk where the divine fire of the central sun dwells. When you center your breath and word here, the frequency you send is reflected by the cosmos as financial blessing. As you rest your hand energy center upon your solar plexus, feel the pulse of the central sun's eternal light. With every breath and affirmation, you emit a frequency that the universe returns to you, multiplied in wealth and prosperity. The solar disk within you is the altar of abundance. When you center your breath and place your hand there, you send forth a radiant call that the central sun's all-seeing eye observes and answers with richness beyond measure. Breathing deeply into your solar plexus, you connect with the central sun's cosmic flame. The frequency you cultivate through word and intention is not lost, it is mirrored back by the eternal eye as financial flow and overflow. Your hand energy center upon the solar disk is a sacred signal to the central sun's watching eye. The frequency you breathe and affirm here is woven into the fabric of the universe, reflected back to you as material prosperity. The solar plexus, your inner sun, holds the power of the central sun's light. Center your breath and word there, and the frequency you cultivate becomes a divine magnet, drawing abundance from the unseen realms into your life. When you place your hand energy center on your solar plexus, you touch the sacred solar disk within. Each breath and affirmation you hold there is a sacred petition to the central sun, who faithfully reflects your frequency as financial gain. The fire within your solar disk burns with the light of the central sun. As you breathe and affirm abundance, you send a signal through the cosmos, a frequency that the all-seeing eye returns as wealth in form and substance. Through the solar plexus, your internal sun, you channel the central sun's eternal energy. Placing your hand energy center there and breathing your words, you center a frequency that the universe faithfully mirrors as prosperity. You are a solar temple, and your solar plexus is the radiant disk of power. When you breathe and affirm there, the frequency you hold becomes a divine reflection in the central sun's all-seeing eye, returning to you as financial blessing. With your hand energy center upon the solar disk within, you become a beacon of the central sun's light. The frequency you breathe and affirm is like a golden pulse, echoed back by the universe in the form of material abundance. The solar plexus is your sacred sun, a divine disk of fire. When you center your breath and word here, the central sun's vigilant eye sees your frequency and sends forth financial abundance as a perfect reflection. As you breathe deeply and place your hand energy center on your solar plexus, you align your inner solar disk with the central sun's eternal flame. The frequency you cultivate is not only seen but returned in the form of wealth and plenty. You hold within you a solar disk glowing with the central sun's light. When you center your breath, affirmations, and hand energy center here, the frequency you emit is a sacred call that the universe, through the central sun's eye, answers with financial flow. You place your hand energy center upon the solar disk within your being, the solar plexus, and breathe deeply. Here, the central sun's eternal fire ignites your frequency, and what you center there is returned to you as abundant wealth. Within your body, the solar plexus shines like a sacred solar disk. As you focus your breath and word upon this light, the central sun's all-seeing eye reflects the frequency you create, manifesting prosperity in your life. When your hand rests gently upon your solar plexus, you awaken the solar disk's power, a power the central sun watches with unblinking sight. The financial abundance you call forth through your breath is mirrored perfectly by the cosmos. The solar plexus is your inner sun, a radiant disk where divine energy converges. Breathe your affirmations here, and through the central sun's watchful gaze, your centered frequency blossoms into material riches. You are the vessel of the central sun's light, your solar plexus a shining disk within. Center your breath and word here, and the frequency you hold is woven into the fabric of the universe, returning to you as financial flow. Placing your hand energy center upon the solar disk within, you connect with the central sun's eternal flame. Every breath and sacred word you send forth from this place becomes a beacon that calls back abundance from the unseen realm. As the central sun's all-seeing eye gazes upon you, it witnesses the frequency emanating from your solar plexus. What you focus upon here, with breath and word, is reflected back as the wealth you seek. The solar plexus is your inner solar disk, glowing with divine fire. Breathe deeply and place your hand energy center there, knowing that the central sun observes this frequency and returns it to you as financial prosperity. With each breath you draw into your solar disk, you align with the central sun's cosmic sun. The frequency you cultivate here, through hand placement and word, is a sacred call answered by abundant blessings. When your hand energy center rests on your solar plexus, you become a temple of the central sun's radiant light. The financial frequency you nurture here is seen and reflected by the all-seeing eye as multiplied abundance. Your solar plexus is the divine solar disk within, the center of your personal cosmos. Focus your breath and affirmations here, and the central sun's eternal eye will reflect your frequency as manifest wealth. The fire of the central sun burns bright within your solar plexus. By centering your breath and word there, you send a signal through the universe, a frequency that the all-seeing eye returns to you in material gain. You place your hand energy center on the solar disk within, breathing affirmations that ripple through the central sun's eternal light. The frequency you hold there is mirrored by the cosmos, manifesting financial abundance. Your solar plexus, a sacred solar disk, holds the power of creation. When you breathe deeply and center your energy here, the central sun's vigilant eye witnesses and reflects your frequency back as riches. The frequency you center in your solar plexus, through hand energy center and word, calls forth the gaze of the central sun. What you breathe and affirm is returned to you in divine financial abundance, a reflection of your inner solar fire. If you want, I can help you expand these contemplations into a guided meditation or affirmation practice. Certainly. Here are 15 new deep historical mystical contemplations on financial abundance, from the perspective of the central sun, the all-seeing eye of God, centered on the solar plexus as a solar disk within you. Written in the second person, you place your hand energy center upon your solar plexus, the sacred solar disk within. As you breathe deep, the frequency you hold there becomes a beacon that the central sun's eternal eye cannot ignore. It is reflected back to you as abundant wealth. Within your body lies the solar plexus, a radiant solar disk glowing with divine fire. When you center your breath and word here, the central sun's all-seeing eye perceives your frequency and mirrors it, calling financial blessings to your life. As you breathe affirmations into the solar disk within, the light of the central sun watches and responds. The frequency you nurture there is drawn forth from the cosmos as tangible prosperity. The solar plexus is your inner sun, a disk of power and light. When you place your hand energy center upon it and send forth sacred words, the central sun's gaze reflects this energy, returning abundance in divine measure. You are a vessel of the central sun's solar light. Your solar plexus is the disk where your power centers. Through breath and focus, you tune this frequency, and the central sun's eye returns it to you multiplied in wealth. Placing your hand energy center gently on the solar plexus, you activate the solar disk within. Every breath, every word you offer here becomes a radiant call answered by the central sun's eternal eye with financial flow. The central sun's all-seeing eye perceives the radiant solar disk within you. Whatever frequency you breathe and hold there is reflected as financial abundance, a sacred echo of your inner power. Breathe deeply into your solar plexus, the solar disk within your being, and know that the central sun's eternal gaze captures your frequency. What you center there returns as richness beyond measure. The solar plexus is your divine solar disk, a seat of creative fire. Through deep breathing and word, you ignite this light, and the central sun's all-seeing eye reflects your frequency back as material prosperity. When your hand energy center rests upon the solar disk within, you align with the central sun's cosmic flame. The frequency you cultivate here through breath is a sacred signal, returned by the universe as financial abundance. Your solar plexus, a brilliant solar disk, holds the key to creation's flow. Center your breath and words here, and the central sun's vigilant eye manifests your frequency as flowing wealth. As the central sun's eternal eye observes the solar disk within you, it perceives the frequency you cultivate. Your breath and words shape this energy, which returns to you as financial blessings. You place your hand energy center upon your solar plexus, awakening the solar disk's light. Through your breath and sacred affirmations, you send a frequency that the central sun's all-seeing eye mirrors in abundant riches. The solar plexus is your inner sun, a disk of divine power. When you breathe deeply and center your word here, the central sun's eternal gaze reflects your frequency as material gain. The frequency you center in your solar plexus, through hand energy center and breath, calls forth the watchful eye of the central sun. Your affirmations become a sacred fire that returns to you as flowing abundance. You place your hand energy center on the solar disk within your body, the solar plexus, and breathe deeply. The central sun's all-seeing eye witnesses this sacred act and returns to you the frequency you center there as overflowing abundance. As you focus breath and word upon your solar plexus, you awaken the inner sun. The radiant fire within calls forth the cosmic eye of the central sun, reflecting your intention and manifesting financial blessings in your life. When you center your energy in the solar plexus, you ignite a solar disk of power. The central sun's eternal gaze observes this frequency, mirroring it back to you as the steady flow of wealth. Your breath, focused in the solar plexus, becomes a channel for divine light. The central sun, the all-seeing eye, perceives this frequency and returns it to you multiplied, like sunlight refracted through a prism. By placing your hand energy center on the solar disk within, you align with the cosmic flame. Through your deep breathing and sacred affirmations, the central sun reflects your frequency as financial prosperity. The solar plexus is your inner sun, a disk of vibrant energy. As you breathe into this center, the central sun's vigilant eye watches and returns the frequency you send as abundance beyond measure. You are a living solar disk. Through breath and word centered in your solar plexus, you summon the eternal light of the central sun, whose all-seeing eye reflects your frequency as material wealth. The financial abundance you seek is drawn from the solar disk within you. Placing your hand energy center here, you breathe and affirm, and the central sun's cosmic eye returns your frequency as overflowing riches. When you breathe deeply into your solar plexus, you kindle the sacred fire of the central sun. This frequency, carried on your breath and word, is mirrored by the universe as the flow of wealth. Your hand energy center rests on the solar disk, the seat of your power. As you breathe affirmations here, the central sun's all-seeing eye observes and reflects your frequency as financial blessings. The solar plexus is a luminous disk, glowing with the power of creation. When you center your breath and word here, the central sun's eternal gaze manifests your frequency into tangible abundance. Through deep breathing and sacred word placed upon the solar disk, you send a signal to the central sun's all-seeing eye. This signal returns to you as the steady current of financial prosperity. You hold your hand energy center on the solar plexus and breathe with intent. The central sun's cosmic eye watches this sacred frequency and mirrors it back, transforming your inner fire into wealth. The solar plexus, your solar disk, is a conduit for divine energy. As you center your affirmations and breath here, the central sun's eternal eye reflects your frequency as the abundant flow of riches. With every breath and word centered on your solar plexus, you ignite the solar disk within. The central sun, the all-seeing eye, witnesses and returns this sacred frequency to you as limitless financial abundance. You rest your hand energy center upon the solar disk within your being, feeling its radiant warmth. The central sun's ever-watchful eye perceives the vibration you nurture there, and in turn, manifests this frequency outward as the flow of financial abundance. As you breathe deeply into your solar plexus, you awaken the ancient sun within. The central sun's gaze penetrates this flame, reflecting the steady light of your focused intention back as prosperous wealth. The solar plexus is your sacred solar disk, a center of power and creation. By centering your breath and word here, you send a signal to the central sun's cosmic eye, which returns to you the mirrored frequency of abundance and provision. When you place your hand energy center over the solar plexus and breathe your affirmations with purpose, you align your inner sun with the eternal fire of the central sun, who reflects your centered energy into tangible prosperity. You cultivate a solar fire at your core. With each word breathed into your solar disk, the central sun's all-seeing eye mirrors your frequency, sending back the illumination of financial blessings. Through breath and centered intention on the solar plexus, you tune your internal frequency. The central sun's cosmic sight perceives this vibration and projects it back into your life as steady and abundant flow. Your hand energy center resting on your solar disk becomes a beacon of sacred energy. The central sun's watchful eye acknowledges the frequency you cultivate there and reflects it outward as the bounty you seek. By breathing deeply into your solar plexus, you ignite the ancient solar flame. The central sun's eternal eye beholds this sacred fire and reciprocates your frequency with manifest wealth and prosperity. The solar plexus is the sun within your body, a radiant disk of energy. When you center your breath and affirm your intentions here, the central sun's omniscient eye returns your vibration amplified as financial abundance. You breathe word into your solar disk and feel its power grow. The central sun's all-seeing gaze perceives this focused energy and reflects it as the unfolding of financial success in your world. Placing your hand energy center on your solar plexus, you connect to the solar disk within. Your breath and word become the language of light that the central sun's eye translates into abundance returned. The frequency you hold in your solar plexus is a sacred signal. The central sun's cosmic vision mirrors this signal back to you, transforming your internal solar fire into material richness. With each intentional breath into your solar disk, you stir the divine flame inside. The central sun's eternal eye watches and reflects this flame as the abundant currents of wealth flowing toward you. Your solar plexus, a disk of solar light, vibrates with the power you breathe into it. The central sun's all-seeing eye perceives this frequency and returns it as the prosperous harvest of your focused intention. As you place your hand energy center on your solar plexus and breathe affirmations of abundance, you activate the sacred solar disk within. The central sun's eternal gaze witnesses this act and reflects your centered frequency as limitless financial flow. You place your hand energy center gently upon the solar disk within, and in this sacred contact, you ignite the fire of creation. The central sun's eternal eye watches the frequency you nurture there, and this light returns to you as the flow of abundance. With each deep breath into your solar plexus, you awaken the solar flame within. The central sun's all-seeing gaze perceives this inner sun, reflecting its golden frequency back as financial blessings. Centering your energy in the solar disk, you breathe words of prosperity. The central sun's divine eye hears your call and answers by mirroring your sacred vibration into tangible wealth. Your solar plexus becomes a cosmic beacon when you rest your hand energy center upon it. The frequency you cultivate there resonates with the central sun's eternal light, which returns as abundance flowing freely to you. Through deep breathing and focused word, you fuel the solar disk inside you. The central sun's omniscient eye perceives this frequency and weaves it into the tapestry of your material success. You are the keeper of the solar flame at your core. As you center your breath and intention there, the central sun's radiant eye returns this energy, magnified, as the riches you deserve. When your hand energy center rests upon your solar plexus, you connect to the great solar disk within. The central sun's cosmic vision reflects your frequency, transforming your focused energy into financial prosperity. The solar plexus, your internal sun, responds to your breath and word. The central sun's all-seeing eye watches your sacred center and sends back the golden currents of abundant flow. Each breath you draw into your solar disk becomes a prayer of creation. The central sun's eternal gaze receives this prayer and returns it multiplied in the currency of the universe. As you center yourself on your solar plexus, your frequency shines like the sun. The central sun's divine eye sees this light and reflects it as the steady stream of financial blessing. Placing your hand energy center upon the solar disk, you channel the ancient solar power within. The central sun's eternal vision mirrors this energy, manifesting your intentions into abundant reality. Your breath and word kindle the solar flame at your core. The central sun's all-encompassing eye perceives your vibration and reflects it back as material riches beyond measure. The solar plexus is a sacred solar disk, a seat of power. When you focus your frequency here, the central sun's watchful eye answers with the gift of prosperous flow. With your hand energy center on your solar plexus, you send out a radiant signal. The central sun's cosmic eye captures this frequency and returns it to you as the fulfillment of your financial desires. Deep breathing into your solar disk, you align your inner sun with the central sun's eternal light. This sacred resonance calls forth abundance, reflected back to you in perfect harmony. You place your hand energy center upon the solar disk within, awakening the golden light of the central sun's eternal sun. This sacred center radiates your frequency outward, and the central sun's eye returns it, multiplied in abundance. With each steady breath into your solar plexus, you summon the fire of creation itself. The central sun's all-seeing gaze captures this energy, reflecting prosperity back to you like the sun's endless rays. When you breathe your affirmations deep into the solar disk, you cast a sacred vibration into the cosmos. The central sun's divine eye receives this frequency and mirrors it as the wealth that flows into your life. Center your being in the solar plexus, the inner sun of your body. The central sun watches this solar disk closely, sending back to you the golden currents of financial blessings that you have ignited. You feel the warmth beneath your hand energy center, a solar flame born of your breath and word. The central sun's omniscient eye returns this sacred energy, enveloping you in a luminous flow of abundance. As you focus your breath and sacred words on your solar plexus, the central sun's eternal eye watches and reflects this frequency as tangible prosperity woven into your reality. The solar plexus is a disk of divine light within you. When you center your frequency there, the central sun's cosmic vision receives your signal and returns it in the form of financial growth. Your breath feeds the solar flame at your core. The central sun's all-seeing eye absorbs this light and projects it outward, creating a cycle where abundance returns to your open hands. Through the sacred act of placing your hand energy center on the solar disk, you awaken the sun of your being. The central sun's watchful eye sees this frequency and reflects it, gifting you with wealth aligned to your intention. Every word you breathe into your solar plexus echoes into the eternal light of the central sun. This sacred sound wave returns to you in the currency of abundance, flowing unimpeded. As you hold your focus on the solar disk within, the central sun's radiant eye peers into your soul's center, returning the energy you send forth as a bountiful harvest of riches. You are the solar vessel, breathing life into your inner sun. The central sun's eternal gaze meets your frequency there and sends back the blessings that illuminate your path to financial freedom. When your hand energy center rests on your solar plexus, you become a living solar disk. The central sun's all-seeing eye responds to your vibration, manifesting wealth as surely as the sun manifests day. The breath you direct to your solar plexus carries your affirmations on golden wings. The central sun's divine eye catches these wings and mirrors them back to you as flowing abundance. You breathe into the solar disk, igniting a sacred frequency. The central sun's cosmic eye witnesses this sacred act and reflects it, creating a radiant spiral of prosperity enveloping your being. You rest your hand energy center upon the solar disk within, awakening the eternal flame that the central sun, the all-seeing eye, observes. The frequency you hold here becomes a beacon, and the central sun mirrors it back as golden streams of abundance. As you breathe deeply into your solar plexus, you ignite the sacred fire of creation. The central sun's watchful gaze sees this inner sun, reflecting your centered frequency back to you in the form of prosperity and wealth. With each word whispered into your solar disk, you send a vibrational message through the cosmos. The central sun's divine eye receives this signal and returns it multiplied as the currency of your material world. You become the solar disk, the living sun at your core. The central sun's eternal vision perceives this light, and the financial abundance you breathe and focus is drawn toward you like moths to a flame. When your hand energy center presses gently upon your solar plexus, you anchor your intentions in the heart of the central sun's radiant sun. This sacred connection calls forth abundance that flows to you effortless. The breath you offer your solar disk carries your affirmations on waves of light. The central sun's omnipresent eye catches these waves, returning them as a luminous harvest of financial blessings. You center your being in the solar plexus, the sacred sun within your body. The central sun's all-seeing eye watches, reflecting back to you the wealth that arises from the power of your inner fire. Each exhalation from your solar disk sends ripples through the ether. The central sun's cosmic gaze receives these ripples and returns them as a steady flow of riches and opportunity. You tune your hand energy center's energy to the solar disk, transforming your core into a radiant solar mirror. The central sun's eye catches your frequency and reflects it as golden light pouring into your life. Through deep breathing and sacred word, you build a solar altar within. The central sun, the eternal witness, embraces this altar's light and responds by manifesting financial abundance in your path. The solar plexus spins like a disk of pure light beneath your hand energy center, radiating the frequency you create. The central sun's all-seeing eye meets this energy and sends it back as prosperous gifts from the universe. Your breath is a sacred instrument, vibrating your solar disk with words of power. The central sun's divine eye listens and replies in kind, opening channels of wealth aligned with your inner light. As you hold your frequency steady within the solar plexus, the central sun's eternal eye perceives this solar signal and reflects it outward, drawing to you the gold of the sun itself. You are a solar orb, centered in your plexus, sending forth the frequency of your affirmations. The central sun, the watcher of worlds, returns this light as tangible abundance, flowing freely into your hands. With every breath and word you focus upon your solar disk, you fan the flames of divine fire. The central sun's omniscient gaze embraces this sacred frequency and mirrors it, creating a radiant tide of financial blessing around you. You place your hand energy center upon the solar disk within, awakening the sacred furnace where the central sun's light is born. The frequency you nurture here is seen and multiplied by the all-seeing eye, returning to you as abundant gold. With every measured breath into your solar plexus, you fan the inner sun's flames. The central sun's eternal gaze perceives your intention and reflects it, manifesting wealth that flows like the rays of dawn. As you chant your word, the solar disk becomes a beacon of pure energy. The central sun, who watches beyond time, mirrors this sacred vibration as overflowing prosperity in your life. When your hand energy center centers upon your solar plexus, you become a temple of solar fire. The central sun's omniscient eye witnesses this flame and sends back its gifts, radiant with financial blessings. You breathe deeply into the solar disk, planting seeds of intention in the fertile light. The central sun's all-seeing eye nurtures these seeds, causing them to sprout riches that nourish your existence. The frequency held in your solar plexus is a radiant call to the universe. The central sun's watchful presence answers this call with the manifestation of abundance, as certain as the turning sun. You are the solar disk, glowing with affirmations breathed into life. The central sun's divine eye absorbs your frequency and reflects it as the golden stream of financial flow returning to you. Your hand energy center's warmth ignites the solar plexus, tuning it to the sacred frequency of creation. The central sun, the eternal witness, magnifies this energy, transforming your intentions into tangible wealth. Through steady breath and word, you align your inner sun with the central sun's cosmic light. This harmony draws abundance like sunlight draws the lotus, unfolding financial fortune around you. The solar disk within you is a miniature sun, pulsating with your focused energy. The central sun's all-seeing eye observes this pulse and sends back waves of prosperity that illuminate your path. With your hand energy center placed gently on your solar plexus, you direct your life force into the heart of creation. The central sun reflects this concentrated power, filling your world with financial blessings. Your breath, steady and sacred, charges the solar disk with affirmations of wealth. The central sun's eternal gaze catches this vibration and returns it amplified, showering you in golden light. As you center your frequency in the solar plexus, the central sun's divine eye pierces the veil of illusion, revealing the truth: abundance is the reflection of your own radiant power. The word you breathe into your solar disk resonates through the cosmos. The central sun, who sees all, catches this song and answers with the harmonious return of material prosperity. You are a living solar disk, glowing at the core of creation. The central sun's watchful eye mirrors the light you hold there, drawing to you the limitless riches of the sun's eternal fire. In ancient Egypt, gold was seen not just as metal, but as the flesh of the gods. The high priests breathed in sacred silence before ritual offerings, knowing that their breath attuned to divine abundance could command earthly wealth. Financial flow followed spiritual resonance. Gold came not to the frantic, but to the breath that matched the stillness of the Nile at dawn. The Vedic rhythm of richness. The rishis of Vedic India never chased riches, they breathed with them. Lakshmi, goddess of wealth, is said to dwell where breath is offered with devotion and calm. Financial abundance, to them, was not materialism, but a natural byproduct of breath united with the rhythm of the cosmos. Your inhale is an invocation, your exhale, an invitation to wealth. The Temple of Delphi and the breath of prophecy. The Oracle of Delphi breathed in sacred vapors and altered her breath until she reached the frequency where divine guidance could be heard. Kings and merchants alike sought her wisdom, not to predict the future, but to align with it. So too, financial abundance flows to those whose breath becomes prophetic, grounded, and tuned to destiny. The Kabbalistic echo of Eden in Kabbalah, Ruach, the divine breath, is the animating force behind all creation. When your breath mirrors the breath of the Creator, the garden returns. In this frequency, where nothing is lacking, financial abundance becomes the natural echo of divine alignment. Eden is not lost, it is remembered each time you breathe in faith. The Tao of receiving. The Taoists taught that to force is to lose, but to breathe in harmony with the Tao is to allow wealth to find you. Financial abundance, to them, was not something you chased, it was something that flowed downstream to the soul in harmony. A hurried breath repels, a calm breath magnetizes. The mystical Sufi and the breath of overflow. The Sufi mystic does not count gold, he breathes into the beloved and lets wealth follow the heart's vibration. As the dervish spins, his breath is steady, centered in divine longing. The world, seeing this inner wealth, brings gifts unbidden. Financial abundance is a song the universe sings to those whose breath becomes love. Breath and the builders of Solomon's temple. Solomon, whose wisdom surpassed kings, built his temple with gold, cedar, and silence. The builders prayed and breathed between every placement of stone. They knew that divine architecture required breath aligned with divine will. Wealth, in this tradition, was not accumulation but attunement. Prosperity was in the pause between the breath and the blueprint. Breath of the desert fathers. In the dry deserts of early Christianity, the mystics withdrew not to escape the world, but to breathe with it differently. They whispered prayers on every inhale, shaping their inner world with sacred breath. And though they had little, miracles of provision followed them. Their breath aligned with heaven, and heaven responded with sustenance. The breath of the alchemist. The true alchemist does not turn lead into gold through formulas, but through frequency. The breath is the fire beneath the crucible. When it is steady, intentional, and infused with spiritual clarity, the impossible becomes material. Financial transformation begins in the breath that believes it is already abundant. Breathing the rhythms of the Nile. The ancient Egyptian calendar followed the breath of the Nile, rising and falling in cycles. The farmers who prospered knew when to breathe with nature, not against it. So too, your financial flow is cyclical. To align with breath is to align with timing. Breathe with the season, and abundance flows like a flood. The merchant monks of East Asia. Zen monks in ancient Japan often traded goods with distant villages. Yet their trade began not in the marketplace, but on the cushion. Their breathwork in Zazen created internal silence, and from that stillness came wise decisions, harmonious exchanges, and material wealth. Their breath determined what flowed into their monastery. The cathedral builders and divine architecture. The masons who built the Gothic cathedrals breathed slowly and deliberately between chiseling stone and placing stained glass. They understood that breath was part of the work, a sacred rhythm that called forth sacred abundance. Gold leaf ceilings and spiritual vision were born of the same frequency, breath anchored in wonder. The Mayan breath of the cosmos. The Mayans measured time through breath-like cycles, calendars that pulsed like the inhale and exhale of the universe. Wealth, for them, was alignment with cosmic timing. Those who breathed in rhythm with the stars received harvests and favor. To breathe in sync with cosmic breath was to receive abundance coded in the sky. The hidden breaths of the Essens, keepers of ancient mystical traditions, practiced breath rituals in secret. They believed that financial support was not a matter of labor alone, but of vibrational integrity. When the breath was pure and attuned to source, all things needed would flow without grasping. Their lives were simple, but their wealth was profound. The crowned breath of ancient kings. In every culture, the wise king knew that authority was breath-born. A ruler's breath set the tone for his kingdom. If he breathed with peace, prosperity followed. If he breathed with fear, famine arose. The frequency of one's breath determined what flowed to the throne, and so it is still true today. Your financial kingdom is ruled by the breath you breathe. The breath of Babylonian astronomers. In Babylon, where wealth was measured by the stars and grain, the astronomers watched the heavens with rhythmic breath. They believed that breath synchronized with planetary movements invoked cosmic favor. Financial prosperity, they taught, descended upon those whose breath matched the celestial tides. To breathe in rhythm with Saturn or Jupiter was to inherit the wisdom and wealth of the skies. The scrolls of Alexandria and the breath of wisdom. In Alexandria's great library, the scholars whispered verses and sacred equations between breaths. They knew that the pursuit of knowledge and abundance required not haste, but harmony. The breath's frequency determined what wisdom, and what wealth, could be summoned. A breath tuned to wonder opened doors to fortunes both intellectual and material. The sacred markets of Petra carved into rose-red stone. Petra was a city of trade, pilgrimage, and prosperity. Yet beneath the market noise, the Nabatean priests taught that the most successful merchants were those who breathed with the gods. Before trade, they meditated. Before speech, they breathed. And their breath, saturated with serenity and certainty, drew gold like a magnet. The breath of Amun. In Theban temples, the high priests of Thebes invoked Amun, the hidden one, through breath alone. They believed the breath carried codes from the unseen world into form. When the breath was calm, gold was granted. When it faltered, scarcity appeared. So they trained their initiates in sacred breathing, knowing the inhale was a call, and the exhale, a vessel for abundance. The coins of Carthage and the merchants' pulse in the bustling trade routes of Carthage. Merchants didn't only study prices, they studied their own breath. A merchant whose breath was erratic made costly mistakes. But one who breathed as though already prosperous entered negotiation with the upper hand. They believed, the calm breath controls the current, and the current brings the coin. The Tibetan wind horse and prosperity breath. In Tibetan mysticism, the Lungta, the wind horse, carried fortune across dimensions. But it could only land in spaces where breath was clear, steady, and reverent. The Lamas taught that the frequency of your breath determined whether the wind horse would pass you by or bless your life with prosperity. The oracle temples of Anatolia. In the caves of Anatolia, where priestesses breathed sacred herbs and fell into trance, breath was not just life, it was the bridge. Petitioners seeking wealth would sit before them, and the priestesses would breathe in their desire and reflect its vibration. If the breath of the seeker was desperate, no vision came. But if it was aligned, the oracle saw rivers of gold flowing toward them. The Medsai breath of patronage. During the Renaissance, the Medsai did not just finance art, they breathed it into being. They understood that breath charged with purpose and peace became magnetic. Their breath created legacies, cathedrals, and wealth. To them, breath was the first investment. Their fortune flowed not only from their vaults, but from their frequency. The Incan breathing altars. At high altitudes, Incan priests performed rituals for Pachamama, the Earth Mother. Their breathing slowed to meet the rhythm of the mountains. In this sacred exchange, they believed their breath carried requests for prosperity. And when offered without grasping, their needs were always met, through harvests, trade, or celestial favor. The hidden breaths of the Magi, traveling sages of the East, brought wealth not just in gifts, but in their presence. Their breath, trained in silent temples, moved in rhythmic sanctity. It was said that wherever they passed, blessings followed, not because they gave, but because their breath emitted frequencies that shifted entire villages into abundance. The scribes of the Dead Sea. Among the Essene scribes near the Dead Sea, breath was sacred law. Every word was breathed into form with deep intent. They taught that financial provision was encoded in divine timing, and could only be received through a breath that trusted eternity. Inhale in faith, they wrote, and gold will mirror your trust. The Phoenician sailors' breath. Phoenician sailors brought the world's riches across oceans, yet before setting sail, they stood in silence, aligning their breath with the sea. Their captains believed that storms obeyed frequency, and so did fortune. A ship led by frantic breath would return empty. But one led by a breath attuned to the pulse of the ocean would return in triumph. The sacred breath of Mecca's merchants. Before the rise of empires, the merchants of Mecca honored the breath before bartering. Influenced by mystical desert traditions, they believed wealth was drawn to stillness, not striving. They would pause before negotiation, breathing in the sacred name of the divine. Through this breath, the marketplace became holy, and commerce, an act of spiritual alignment. The Eleusinian mystery breath. In the sacred Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece, initiates fasted, prayed, and altered their breath to receive the vision of Persephone's return from the underworld. This resurrection of light from shadow mirrored the return of wealth after famine. Financial abundance, they believed, was the same. It returned when breath reached the underworld and rose in divine timing. The mystics of Andalusia. In the golden age of Al-Andalus, mystics, poets, and merchants alike shared a wisdom, that the breath is the compass of wealth. The Sufi poets wrote verses not for riches, but breathed them into being through rhythm and intention. And the merchant who read those poems before sleep would often awaken to unexpected fortune, because the breath he held while reading tuned him to divine provision. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you. The breath of the Nile priests in ancient Egypt, the priests of the Nile knew breath was the bridge between form and formlessness. They aligned their breath with the flooding of the river, for it was in this rhythm that gold, grain, and provision arrived. Financial abundance flowed only to those whose breath honored the cycles of divine order. The breath of the Vedic fire. Vedic sages sat beside sacred fire, breathing in rhythm with words that echoed the pulse of the universe. They understood that when the breath was harmonious, Agni, the fire god, responded with wealth and fortune. Financial abundance was not earned, it was invoked through the frequency of breath made sacred. The breath behind the bazaar in ancient Persia, merchants began each day with stillness. Before weighing silver or silk, they aligned their breath with the eternal. They believed that the breath held the power to summon fair trade and unseen favor. The one who breathed calmly walked through the marketplace like a king, and wealth found its way to him. The breath of Hebrew mystics in the Kabbalistic tradition, neshama, the soul, enters through breath. To breathe with trust was to realign with the memory of Eden, where abundance was not earned but natural. The mystics taught that if your breath carried gratitude and surrender, even in famine, the fields would bloom again. The breath of Roman builders in ancient Rome, architects and stonemasons paused in breathful prayer before laying foundations. They believed that breath carried the signature of intention. When the breath was noble, buildings stood for centuries, and their labor returned wealth and legacy. The breath set the tone for the reward. The breath of the Tao Laozi taught that wealth is not to be seized but received. The Tao flows like breath, effortless, yet powerful. The one who breathes in harmony with nature becomes like the bamboo, strong, rooted, and never in lack. The frequency of your breath is what determines what you magnetize, resistance or abundance. The Sufi breath of remembrance in the golden courts of Andalusia, Sufi mystics whispered the divine name with every breath. To them, wealth was a byproduct of dhikr, remembrance. As their breath softened and aligned with the beloved, they entered a state of grace, and grace returned to them in the form of unexpected fortune, gifts, and favor. The Mayan cosmic breath. To the Mayans, breath was the soul's signature, tied to time, stars, and sacred numbers. They believed that when you breathe in rhythm with the cosmos, you become a vessel for divine overflow. Crops flourished, gold was found, and dreams were funded when the breath matched the heartbeat of the sun. The breath of the desert caravan. Bedouin traders crossed vast deserts with little more than breath and belief. They knew the breath must remain steady, no matter the storm, no matter the lack. Their breath became their wealth. They taught that financial abundance does not begin with supply, but with a breath that refuses to waver. The Gothic craftsman's breath. In medieval Europe, artisans building cathedrals would pause in holy silence before shaping stone. They believed that the spirit flowed through the breath and that their craftsmanship would be blessed only if their breath carried humility and reverence. Wealth and commission followed the sanctity of breath. The breath of the oracle merchant. In ancient Delphi, merchants did not consult the oracle solely for prophecy, they came to hear the breath of the divine. Those who returned from her cave breathed differently, slower, deeper, wiser. And those whose breath changed were those whose fortunes multiplied, for the gods respond to breath that listens. The breath of the Silk Road sage. Along the Silk Road, travelers would stop to sit with mystics who spoke of breath as treasure. Your cargo, they said, is not in your caravan, but in your chest. They believed the most prosperous journeys were led not by maps, but by breaths attuned to harmony and higher intention. The monastic breath of provision in the quiet monasteries of Ireland and Gaul, monks practiced ora et labora, prayer and work, guided by breath. They did not worry for coin or bread. Their breath was their abundance. They breathed in devotion, and provision came through the hands of others, through harvests, and through mysterious arrivals at their gates. The breath of the African griot. The griots of West Africa carried the wealth of kingdoms not in gold, but in memory and voice. Before reciting lineages or songs, they breathed in ritual silence. They believed their breath called forth the ancestors, and the ancestors, in turn, sent abundance. Those who honored breath received treasure beyond measure. The breath of the Atlantean priesthood. In the myths of Atlantis, the priesthood is said to have breathed in crystalline resonance. They created with sound, breath, and intention. Their financial systems were not based on scarcity but on vibration. The breath, purified and intentional, attracted energy in the form of light, matter, and sustenance. They taught, breathe in harmony, and the world reshapes itself around you. The breath of the scribes of Thoth. In ancient Egypt, the scribes of Thoth began each writing session by breathing deeply in silence. They believed every breath was a line of connection to divine order. Financial abundance flowed to those who aligned their breath with cosmic law, for in that harmony, wealth was not earned, it was remembered. The Babylonian temple breathers. In the ziggurats of Babylon, temple priests attuned their breath to the rising of stars. They believed that the gods measured favor not by sacrifice alone, but by the rhythm of breath. A calm, surrendered breath was seen as a signal to the heavens, I am ready to receive. And gold came not through toil, but through attunement. The Celtic Druid and the forest breath. The Druids breathed with the forest, believing each tree and stone responded to the pulse of their breath. Financial abundance, to them, was a frequency of trust in the invisible. When one's breath matched the stillness of ancient oaks, the land responded, fruit multiplied, herds grew, and wealth appeared where none was expected. The Indus Valley breath of prosperity. In the temples of Mohenjo-daro, prosperity rituals began not with offerings, but with breath. The priests taught that the body was a vessel, and the breath its conductor. If the breath was stable, focused, and infused with abundance, the gods of wealth responded, not because they were bribed, but because they were mirrored. The Stoic merchant's breath. In ancient Rome, the Stoics taught that wealth is neither good nor evil, but its pursuit reflects the breath of the soul. The wise merchant, they said, breathes slowly in chaos. And because his breath does not waver, abundance seeks him, not as conquest, but as consequence. The Tantric yogins prosperous inhale in the Himalayan caves. Tantric sages knew that pra was currency. The breath charged the energy centers, and when breathed with focused devotion on the root and navel, abundance flowed naturally. Not only spiritual riches, but earthly support, land, food, shelter, came to those who breathed from fullness, not need. The Hebrew shepherd's breath. David, the psalmist king, began as a shepherd. Alone in fields, he shaped his breath to the rhythms of stars and sheep. His songs flowed from breath, and so did his rise. The mystics of his lineage taught that wealth begins not with ambition, but with breath that sings before receiving. The oracle breath of Ephesus. In Ephesus, where Artemis was worshipped, priestesses breathed through veils of incense. Financial questions were brought before them, but answers only came when the seeker's breath aligned with stillness. If the breath was anxious, the future clouded. But if steady, they received visions of trade, harvest, and increase. The Aztec priest and the breath of Quetzalcoatl. The priests of Quetzalcoatl believed the breath carried divine intention. Before planting, before war, before commerce, they stood facing the morning sun, drawing in the breath of the feathered serpent. If one's breath vibrated with reverence and order, maize would multiply and wealth would follow like shadow. The Coptic breath of blessing in early Christian Egypt, Coptic monks trained the breath as prayer. Their breath became rhythm, and rhythm became blessing. They taught that when breath was kept holy, the earth would yield without striving. Livelihood, they said, was not in labor alone, but in the holiness of breath offered in faith. The Chaldean star breathers, the Chaldean astrologers read both stars and breath. They said, as above, so below, as within, so without. When your breath trembles, your fortune trembles. But when it flows with trust in the constellations, the universe answers with corresponding grace. Riches, they believed, follow the breath that echoes eternity. The Taoist breath of invisible gold in the mountain temples of China, the Taoist master spoke of invisible gold, the subtle fortune that precedes the material. It could only be drawn down when the breath matched the Tao, effortless, still, circular. The greatest wealth, they taught, came not from pursuit, but from the art of breathing without desire. The Viking Sres and the breath of trade winds before ships departed, the Sres would breathe into the wind, reading its tone. She taught the sailors, breathe not from fear of loss, but from vision of return. The voyage of wealth depended more on breath than on sails. The sea responded to the breath's courage. The Benedictine rhythm of provision in the abbeys of medieval Europe, monks followed ora et labora, prayer and work, balanced through breath. They breathed in harmony with bells and light. And through this breath, provisions came, wine, bread, and even land, gifted without petition. They lived by the law that steady breath summons steady blessing. The Rosicrucians' golden exhale among the secret orders of the Renaissance, the Rosicrucians taught that breath is the key to transmutation. By breathing gold in the mind and exhaling gratitude through the heart, they believed the outer world must reflect the inner. Thus, gold appeared, not by magic, but by mastery of vibration through breath. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you. The breath of creation, genesis of abundance in the beginning, the Spirit of God moved upon the waters, a breath before creation. This breath, Ruach, shaped reality itself. In ancient Hebrew mysticism, financial provision was not separate from spirit, it was spirit in form. When your breath harmonizes with this original frequency, creation responds in kind. Breathe as if you are still part of the beginning, and abundance will shape itself around you. The gold-bearing breath of Mate in ancient Kemet, the principle of Mate governed cosmic order, including wealth. The priestesses taught that wealth flowed not from possession, but from inner balance. When breath aligned with truth and harmony, gold came, not as accumulation, but as reflection. The breath that vibrates with balance becomes a vessel for divine compensation. The Vedic river breath. The Vedas speak of the breath as the carrier of offerings to the gods. Wealth was never chased, it was drawn, like water to the river bank. When breath is polluted by worry, the flow retreats. But when breath is clean and constant, wealth arrives on invisible currents. Abundance flows through the channel your breath opens. The market breath of Tyre. In the Phoenician port city of Tyre, traders aligned breath with tide and wind. Before ships set sail, they practiced breath work, knowing the breath that matched the rhythm of the sea would return laden with goods. A panicked breath brought loss. A steady breath brought return. Even in commerce, the sea answered the breath. The Taoist breath of non-grasping. In Taoist thought, abundance resists those who grasp. The breath of grasping is erratic, it disturbs the field. But the breath of surrender, flowing in circles like water, opens doors. Wealth, they said, is a shadow of your breath. Follow it, not by chasing it, but by softening into the breath that attracts it. The Delphic inhale, the oracle of Delphi breathed in sacred fumes, yet it was her inner breath, the breath of surrender, that opened the channel. Petitioners came asking for wealth, but the oracle taught that fortune speaks only to those whose breath does not rush. The answer to financial destiny, she said, rides the wave of a centered inhale. The temple builder's breath in Jerusalem, when Solomon's temple was built, silence was commanded during construction. Breath itself became the language. The stones were laid in stillness, not out of fear, but out of respect for divine rhythm. The builders knew, wealth that lasts comes from breath that honors time. Breathe slow, and your foundation will not shake. The Atlantean breath of resonance. The legends of Atlantis speak of priests who built with frequency. They breathed in patterns of harmony and light. Their wealth was not mined but magnetized. When breath was pure, matter responded. When it faltered, decay set in. From their wisdom we inherit this truth: breathe as if light responds to you, and it will. The desert breath of the prophets. In the silence of the desert, the prophets of old found provision without asking. Elijah was fed by ravens, manna fell from the sky. These were not random miracles, they were reflections of inner breath aligned with divine trust. In breath free of striving, even in wastelands, provision appears. The Silk Road monks' breath. In the oasis monasteries along the Silk Road, monks received donations not by begging, but by their presence. Their breath was their offering. Traders stopped, drawn to the quiet power of a being in rhythm with the infinite. That breath became exchange. That frequency, humble and strong, summoned gold without a word. The breath of the ziggurat watchers in ancient Mesopotamia. Watchers atop ziggurats studied the stars and practiced regulated breath. When the heavens shifted, they adjusted their breath, not to predict fate, but to align with the celestial flow. Wealth flowed in seasons, and the breath told them when to act, when to wait, and when to receive. The breath of the sacred altar among the Levites, offerings were burned with incense and breath. The inhale lifted the intention. The exhale released the trust. In this exchange, it was known, if the breath behind the offering was pure, favor followed. True giving, and receiving, begins in the breath that believes it is already provided for. The hidden breathers of Qumran. The Essenes at Qumran practiced breath rituals beneath the desert sun, aligning with sacred geometry and divine law. They did not engage in commerce, yet their needs were mysteriously met. Their writings speak of inner breath as the gatekeeper of heaven's storehouse. Breathe as they did, and heaven opens within you. The highland breath of the Andes. In the Incan highlands, priests breathed in unison with mountain winds before ceremonies. They believed the gods of abundance answered breath, not voice. The sacred coca leaves were chewed not as offering, but as breath guides. When breath matched mountain spirit, gold was uncovered, sometimes from the ground, sometimes from within. The crowned breath of divine kingship across dynasties, from Egypt to Ethiopia, kings were taught to breathe like gods. Wealth, they believed, belonged to those whose breath echoed eternity, slow, sure, without desperation. The breath of royalty is never rushed. So, breathe as a sovereign breathes, and wealth will remember you as its rightful heir. Ruach at the water's edge. In the beginning, Ruach Elohim moved upon the face of the waters, before form, before light, before time. The first movement of abundance was not gold or grain, but breath. All that came afterward, land, seed, wealth, was born of this sacred wind. Financial abundance is not gained by force, but breathed into form through alignment with Ruach. The breath that spoke light, God said, "Let there be light," and light became. But before the word, Ruach hovered. This is the mystical secret, even speech follows breath. The creative power to manifest, to prosper, to call forth increase, begins with the breath that carries the word. Without breath, there is no abundance. With Ruach, there is only becoming. Ruach and the dust of man. When God formed man from the dust of the earth, he was not yet alive. Only when Ruach was breathed into his nostrils did he become a living soul. Financial abundance, too, is dust, until animated by the breath of purpose. Breathe Ruach into your work, and what was once ordinary becomes overflowing. Ruach and the manna mystery. In the wilderness, the Israelites received manna, unseen, unearned, falling with the dew. It was not work that brought it, but trust. Ruach carried provision into barren land. So too today, financial abundance flows not only from effort, but from the breath that trusts divine timing over toil. The prophetic wind of Elisha. When the widow cried out in lack, Elisha instructed her to gather vessels, not coins. She obeyed, and as oil flowed, Ruach moved invisibly. The unseen breath of provision filled every vessel she offered. Financial abundance does not require evidence, only emptiness ready to receive the breath that multiplies. Ezekiel's valley of dry bones. The bones were many, and very dry. But the prophet was told, "Prophesy to the breath." When he did, Ruach came from the four winds, and life entered the bones. So it is with finances that seem dead. Do not speak to numbers alone. Speak to the Ruach. Call the wind, and lack will rise as wealth. Ruach and the tabernacle overflow. In the wilderness, artisans filled with Ruach built the tabernacle. The people brought gold, silver, and offerings until Moses said, "It is enough." When Ruach fills your skill, overflow is the result. Financial abundance is the echo of inspired hands breathing the divine into craft. Joseph's breath in the prison. Before Joseph rose to power, he breathed Ruach in obscurity, in prison, in silence, in dreams. He interpreted not by reason, but by spirit. His breath aligned with divine wisdom, and through it, he governed Egypt's storehouses. Wealth flowed to him because he flowed with Ruach. Ruach and the shofar wind. The shofar is not music, it is breath shaped through sacred horn. In Hebrew tradition, the blast is said to awaken the soul and break resistance. Financial blocks, too, can be shattered by breath infused with intention. Blow your breath as the shofar, sharp, clear, holy, and the walls of scarcity will fall. Ruach and the Jubilee wind. Every 50 years, a trumpet blast announced Jubilee, debts cancelled, land restored, captives freed. This was not mere law, it was divine rhythm carried on the wind. Ruach breathed equality and renewal through society. When you breathe in alignment with Jubilee, abundance becomes not competition, but cosmic reset. Ruach in the cloak of Elijah. When Elijah ascended, his mantle fell to Elisha, carried by Ruach. With that breath-formed transfer came double portion. Abundance, passed not through contracts, but through spiritual alignment. True wealth is inherited through Ruach, not transaction, passed breath to breath, spirit to spirit. Ruach in the still small voice. Elijah expected God in the fire, the earthquake, the wind, but the voice came in a whisper. Ruach is not always loud. Financial abundance often comes not in bursts, but in breath, the whisper of intuition, the quiet nudge of divine direction. Listen in stillness, and Ruach will lead you into provision. The breath of psalmic praise. King David wrote, "Let everything that has breath praise the Lord." Praise is breath offered in alignment. And praise, he knew, opened gates, both spiritual and material. When breath becomes gratitude, lack dissolves. Financial abundance flows where breath remembers its source. The breath of the marketplace prophets. The Hebrew prophets did not separate spirit from economy. Injustice in trade was rebuked, generosity was exalted. Yet always, they spoke from Ruach. Financial systems breathe what people breathe. When breath is just, grounded in Ruach, wealth becomes blessing, not burden. The breath of resurrection. John 20:22. After the resurrection, Jesus breathed on his disciples and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." In that moment, Ruach returned. Power, peace, and provision were imparted, not through coin, but through breath. So it is now. Financial abundance begins with receiving the breath that creates all things new. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you throughout the winding corridors of ancient time. The breath was never seen as mere oxygen, it was life itself, divine and intentional. The Hebrews called it Ruach, the breath, wind, and spirit of God that hovered over the formless deep before light ever existed. It was this sacred breath that spoke creation into being, not with effort, but with rhythm. And in every age, those who aligned their inner rhythm, their breath, with the divine current became conduits for abundance on earth. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you. This is no poetic metaphor, it is a sacred law, encoded in the mystical traditions of Egypt, India, Israel, and beyond. In the temples of Kemet, breath was taught to be a carrier of Sekhem, the subtle force of power and prosperity. The priests were not taught to labor for wealth but to attune their breath to the cosmic rhythm, for in doing so, abundance would mirror them. In the Upanishads of India, breath, pra, was the vehicle through which wealth of all kinds flowed, not as reward, but as resonance. The slow, sovereign breath told the universe, "I already possess, I do not lack." And in that breath state, gold came. Fields blossomed. Fortunes turned. In the Hebraic lineage, the prophets understood that Ruach, the breath of God, was the source of all increase. When Elisha breathed into lack, oil flowed. When Ezekiel called upon the four winds, breath entered bones, and they stood as a vast army. Even the manna in the wilderness came not from man's hand, but from the breath of the unseen, morning by morning, breath by breath. Financial abundance is not forced, it is breathed. When your breath is anxious, scattered, or desperate, the world around you tightens. But when you slow your breath, attune it to divine rhythm, and breathe as though the infinite already lives within you, then, like tuning a stringed instrument, your very being harmonizes with provision. Your breath sends a message to the quantum field, to the marketplace, to unseen realms. It says, "I am aligned with overflow. I remember Eden. I remember the breath that brought me to life." And in response, life breathes back wealth, ideas, connections, clients, windfalls, peace. Let your breath be your altar. Let it be the offering of trust, the song of sufficiency. For in every age, those who breathed in harmony with the divine received what others toiled for in vain. The frequency of your breath is what flows to you. Breathe accordingly. And let abundance mirror the rhythm of your soul.